What's happening, everybody? Appreciate you guys checking in. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Hopefully you guys had a good week. Hopefully you had a good end of the week. I appreciate you popping in here with me. Let's start this weekend off right, man. I appreciate everybody rocking. Again, sometimes I can't go live throughout the week, but I try to make some time. Make some time to jump on here, chop it up solo with you guys. Some of you guys do know, most of the time I'll kind of go live with my guys in the Raider War Room. So I'll go live with Severe as well as Chris with Protect the Shield podcast. But again, every once in a while, I can pop on here and go live and do a little bit of a solo. So I appreciate everybody popping up in here. We've got a lot to talk about because ultimately this might be a very big weekend. A very big weekend for us as Raider fans. Obviously, we have Clint Kubiak scheduled for tomorrow to come in and actually have an interview with the front office, with Justwinbaby, with hopefully Tom Brady. Hopefully Tom Brady is in the building. He should be. But man, if it doesn't go well, we got a guy like Webb that basically removed himself from our head coaching search. We're going to talk about that just a little bit. You still have Mike LaFleur that's out there, and he's not necessarily scheduled with us. I believe he's got a scheduled interview with the Arizona Cardinals, but we're going to kind of play that comparison. Play the comparison of what does our team, what does our head coaching situation look like as it relates to the Arizona Cardinals. I did a little bit of deeper dive as to the situation with the Cardinals, but I definitely want to get you guys' feedback as well. We're going to take a look at our own salary cap. There are rumors and estimations that the salary cap is going to potentially exceed $300 million this year. And so there's some numbers being thrown out there as to kind of what our salary cap number is going to look like, taking that into consideration, that bump in the overall salary cap. So we're going to take a look at that. Got a couple of things. We're going to talk about tomorrow's game, the Senior Bowl. A couple players that I'm going to be looking at. Obviously, a lot of people like Mendoza. We'll talk a little bit about Mendoza. I see Jason in the building. We can definitely go back and forth a little bit, but there's also other players that are starting to really flash as it relates to the Senior Bowl and just the practices. I've been watching the practices as they've been aired on television, so kind of gives you just a little bit of deeper insight and look as to some of the players that might have potential to pop on Saturday, tomorrow. And so we're definitely going to take a look at that, but also there's an event going on. So just so you guys know, I'm going to share my screen really quick. If you guys are in the Vegas area, obviously some of y'all that rock out with me, you know that I am in the Vegas area, moved here in 2020, and just coincidentally, the Raiders are here. So that's kind of an added value for myself, but I'm going to kind of hit you guys with this real quick. I'm going to share the screen again, just to kind of get this out the way. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to share it here. See if you guys can see it up there. And so if you guys are in the area tomorrow at Tom's Watch Bar, we're doing kind of a tribute to Tom Flores. Shout out to a bunch of, obviously just bigger Raider fans, not Raider fans, but just bigger content creators, I guess you would say, than myself. They've kind of reached out and they've asked me to just be a part of it, so I'm helping out. So Tom Flores, there's, I believe, I want to say around 12 or 13 other locations that we're basically doing one big stream, and we're going to do a tribute to Tom Flores. Obviously, his health has been a little rough, and they just want to do a shout out to him before that time comes for him to. So one of the greats, Tom Flores, obviously coach, player of our former player of the Raiders, and we're going to do basically a little bit of tribute to him. So we're going to be live, not on my channel, but I'm going to do a short, just kind of letting you know where the live stream is going to be. But if you are in the Vegas area, then definitely hit us up. Roll out with us at Tom's Watch Bar on the Vegas Strip. And right now we have roughly around 130, 140 people confirmed. We also have a bunch of former Raider players, Frank Hawkins, Reggie Kinlaw, Leo Gray, Monty Johnson, a bunch more that are going to be in attendance. Shout out to a bunch of other booster clubs, TNBC, the Black Hole. They're going to be rolling with us, as well as a bunch of content creators and super fans are going to be rocking with us. So if you guys are around in the Vegas area, then rock out. Come on through if you're viewing this. So I just definitely want to give that shout out. But shout out to everybody in all the other locations that are coming together to do this tribute for Tom Flores. It's going to be fun. So I'm going to go back up to the big screen. So we got a lot to talk about. All right. I appreciate everybody rocking up in here. Let me kind of get through the chat before I do salute to everybody, man. First drink of the weekend. Appreciate y'all. We got Mayberry, John in the building. What's going on, man? No on Evero. We're going to talk about Evero as well because his name has popped up now that Webb kind of just removed his name out of the running. The Broncos, they're playing a little bit of chess. right? They found out that Davis Webb is interviewing all over the place for another head coaching position or potential head coaching position. They offload their offensive coordinator, and I think they're trying to definitely keep him around. And so it looks like that's going to be the case. So, GeoMex, what's going on, man? If Kubiak is hired, is he qualified to assemble his own coaching staff, or would the GM assemble coaches to view the same philosophy and schematics as ownership? McDermott, anyone? All right, so I'll address this really quick. Can Kubiak assemble his own coaching staff? He's the only thing that I can go off of is the fact that he has been a coach in the National Football League for a very long time, kind of dating back to, I think it's like 2012-ish. He had a small stint in college, but the vast majority of his coaching career has been in the NFL for long enough. And so I think his Rolodex is strong enough. I think his contacts in the league are strong enough to where he can assemble a coaching staff. Now, to what extent, I don't know, right? I think that's the one downside to hiring on your head coach so late in the process. All these other head coaches are already basically placing phone calls. They're placing phone calls. They're getting their guys basically in the mix. You look at what Robert Saleh did. Robert Saleh got the job, and he got Brian Dable to commit right out the box. You know what I'm saying? And so when you wait so long, even though Clint Kubiak's my number one, I want Clint Kubiak. One thing you do risk is that all these other head coaches now can assemble their teams fairly quickly and just kind of get on the horn with some of these coaches and already start that dialogue. Where Clint Kubiak, you just don't, I mean, he's so dialed into the Super Bowl that he's not trying to contact anybody, at least I would assume, to basically come over and be on his coaching staff wherever he ends up landing. And so I do think that with his experience, he can get some decent coaches in the building. One thing that I think would be the smartest move for him is you got to turn around. You got to automatically look at that Seahawks offensive coaching staff, right? Because when Kubiak takes his next position, again, hopefully it's with us. Once he takes that position, the Seattle Seahawks are now going to have to go and find their offensive coordinator. And that offensive coordinator is most likely going to want to bring in his own guys. And so, one, do the Seahawks elevate somebody already on that coaching staff? Don't know. But two, if they don't, if they bring somebody outside to be their offensive coordinator, that guy might want his own staff. And so I think it would be good for Kubiak to really target that Seattle offensive coaching staff. One guy that I know I've kind of looked at is his passing game coordinator. Bring him in because one of the things that you want is you want guys that are on the same page as you as it relates to your offensive philosophy, the strategy that you're going to have in mind. And if you can bring in guys that already know what you want to do, the direction that you want to take this team in, and you guys kind of talk the same language, and you can kind of skip that part of the install as it relates to your own coaching staff, I think that would be a smart move. And so the first thing that I would look at is that offensive coaching staff over there with Seattle. So again, the passing game coordinator, and I do think that offensive line coach, I got to do more research on him, but I do think that he's done some really good things with that offensive line. The Seattle went from the worst offensive line last year to I think probably arguably one of the better offensive lines in the National Football League. Now, don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure. I haven't done my homework on their offensive line, but you see how that running game's working. You see how Sam Darnold is kind of protected in that pocket. So I got to believe that offensive line coach is doing some good things, but at the same time, the offensive line coach tends to be that run game coordinator. And so if you can bring those two guys over, the passing game coordinator, the run game coordinator, and again, you share the same philosophy, you share the same direction, but you also share the same terminology. I think that's a really big learning curve, right? That you don't have to necessarily address when you bring in guys that you're familiar with. And so that's where I think he should start. We'll see how that works out. When it comes to McDermott, if we miss out on Kubiak, we're going to talk about the DC from Charlotte, from Carolina. But if you miss out on Kubiak, I do think McDermott, you got to at least give him a call. You got to give him a call. You got to see what his interest is in coaching this season. I've heard rumors. I've seen some reports that he might take a year off. And if he does, it sounds like it. I mean, obviously, there's only two coaching jobs left, right? It's ours in Arizona. And I haven't heard any ties to him going and speaking with Arizona. So I think you got to at least pick up that phone and just be like, hey, what's your interest? So that's just my take on McDermott. Chat, let me know what your thoughts are on McDermott as well. So GMX, appreciate you popping up in here. What up, Jason? What's happening? Let Kubiak put his own staff together. GM should only give suggestions and maybe provide some of his contacts, but it's going to be slim pickings now that the other teams are fulfilling their staff. Okay. So yeah, it kind of stems off of what I said. I think that's the hard part about waiting, but I'm okay with waiting because I'm okay with waiting for Kubiak. But that is one downside of waiting. You're allowing all the other new head coaches, to assemble their coaching staff, and even some of the head coaches that were fired. Example, like a Raheem. I'm blanking on his name. I don't know why. Raheem Morris, right? He could be your defensive coordinator, but I think he already interviewed with the 49ers. You're just kind of giving that opening for brand new head coaches to kind of get on that horn, call him and see if he wants to come in. And so there's definitely risk with waiting, but hopefully it's a risk while waiting for. So, but I do 100% agree with what Jason's saying, and it's kind of added to that is you don't want the GM to dictate your coaching staff. You got to allow the head coach to fulfill his own coaching staff. You have to, because that head coach has a certain philosophy, and you got to be able to allow him to bring in the guys that share that same philosophy or understand what that direction is. And if he fails, then we know it's 100% on him because he picked his coaching staff. That's where I think everybody, as it relates to the front office, to coaching staff, to ownership, you got to stay in your own lane. You got to stay in your lane. GM, you got to stay in your lane. You got to allow the head coach to either slip and fall on his face or find success and bring this franchise in the direction we want to go in, right? But there's got to be a clear-cut direction and lane for each. And I think the head coach has to be able to handpick his own staff because, again, if they find success, it's on him. If he falls flat on his face, you can point in that direction and say, you failed. Let's move on. So, what up, Jack? What's going on, man? Appreciate you popping up in here. Cobain in the building as well. What's happening, man? Robert Pena, happy Friday. Appreciate you pulling up. Raider Hawaii, always good seeing you, brother. Let's see. I got SD Raider in the building. Meeting is in Seattle, not Vegas. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. So, meeting's in Seattle. Appreciate you. I don't know if I said it was in Henderson. Maybe I did. So, correction. Appreciate that correction. Meeting is in Seattle. All right. Well, I mean, hopefully I don't expect that we're going to hear an actual announcement of a hire. Maybe they walk away with a handshake. And so I don't know if that just in respect to Kubiak, in respect to just kind of the Seattle team, I think even if they have a handshake agreement, I don't know if there's going to be any announcement. There could be some leaks and it'll end up happening. But an official announcement, I don't see it happening. Again, respect to Kubiak and that Seattle team that, hey, 110% focus on that Super Bowl. You don't need any distractions. But we might hear maybe a little bit of a handshake. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Rosestown, what's going on, brother? What's happening, man? Coach Jamba, are we trading back? Right now, I'm leaning on trading back. I have to do more research on the guys that are available. I'm doing a bunch of research on offensive tackles. But right now I'm leaning trading back, and we'll definitely talk about it. We will talk about it. I promise. Pigs. What's going on, man? What's happening, man? Troy Gill. What's going on? What's your predictions about Clint Kubiak being the head coach? Look, if I'm a betting man, I would probably go put money on it. That's as much as I could probably say. You know, you never know. It's never locked in until you're signed on the dotted line and there's official announcements. You know, you look at what happened with Cliff Kingsbury. You know what I'm saying? Everybody thought that he was going to be that offensive coordinator, and just for some reason, you know, he ended up walking out the building. And so until it's signed on the dotted line, you know, I'm not going to put any 110% confidence in it. But if I was a betting man, I'd probably go put money on it. So if that makes sense to you. Justin Otten, O-line run game coordinator, just a suggestion. Is that for Seattle? Let me know if that's the Seattle guy. I got to do more research on him, but I mentioned the O-line coach. Again, I got to do more research on him, but I got to do that was just a suggestion, I would think, because of the improvement that O-line looked to have. At the same time, God, man, it shortens that learning curve of the entire coaching staff. You can bring in guys like the O-line coach, like the passing game coordinator, and kind of dial this offense in. It'll be fun. What up, Nav? What's going on, brother? Appreciate you popping up in here. Sacktown in the building. What's going on, man? MGs, what's going on, man? Everybody, if you can, double tap that screen and hit the like button. I definitely appreciate it. If you want to get included in the chat, hit that sub button. I definitely appreciate it. Shout out to everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Keep saying what's up to everybody. Brave Raider, did you hear anything about the interview of the Cardinals? I did not. I know that I believe he had a scheduled interview. I don't know when it was, if it did already happen, but I have not heard anything about it. What up, Daniel? What's going on, man? Let's see. Dominic in the building as well. Appreciate you popping up in here. Let's see. I just want to make sure I kind of say what's up to as many people before we kind of get into the topics. Eric, what's going on, man? Yoshi in the building. What's happening? Let's see. Laker Nation, what's going on, man? You think Kubiak and Kingsbury could work together? You know, I'm not a big fan of Kingsbury. I think he can call an offense. Don't get me wrong, but I think, Clint Kubiak obviously is going to be the play caller. If Kingsbury were to come over here, I honestly don't know if it would work well. One thing I do like, though, and I'm going to kind of throw this out there, and I've been able to at times assemble my own coaching staff. And you don't always want to get guys that just agree with you, right? I said bring in a passing game coordinator, bring in an offensive line coach that you work well with out of Seattle. I think that would make the most sense. But at the same time, you can bring a receiver coach, a running back coach, a guy that has found success elsewhere but may not always see eye to eye. Because one of the best things you can do as a head coach is bring in guys that have found success. It doesn't always have to mesh and gel with what your vision is, because they see success in a different way. And so if you're able to basically take pieces that fit other puzzles, right, and just see how it can mesh together, because if you can get the input and the opinion on someone that has found success elsewhere, I think it just makes you even more dangerous. Because as a coach, you're always evolving, you're always learning, you're always trying to understand different ways to beat a scheme, right? A defensive scheme, an offensive scheme. You're always looking ways to expand your knowledge. And one way to do that is not always to bring in guys that you're comfortable with, guys that you think are just going to see the same thing that you do. You got to bring in guys that may see it differently, but they've found success seeing it differently. If you bring them in, man, just iron sharpens iron, right? I'm a firm believer in that phrase and that way of looking at things. And competition is not just amongst players. Competition can be amongst coaches. But with Cliff Kingsbury, just to talk directly about him, as much as he's a very sharp offensive mind, I think he's going to want to go somewhere where he is the lead play caller, where he is the guy that is running with that offense. And so I just don't think they'd mesh well if he came over, because Kubiak is going to want to run it. Cliff Kingsbury is most likely going to want to put more of a stamp on that offense. And eventually you bring him in. Eventually I think he's just going to want out, because he's not the play caller. So would they mesh well? I don't know, but I think their mindset would be different. And Cliff Kingsbury is going to want to call plays, which he wouldn't be able to over here. Plus, I just don't like how Cliff Kingsbury, something's gone on, right? Wherever Cliff Kingsbury has gone, he's kind of rubbed people the wrong way. And obviously he dipped out on us. And it's kind of surprising that he all of a sudden is now out of the Washington Commanders job. And so wherever he goes, it's a little shaky just how he gets along with people. So I just don't know if I'd want to bring him over here. So that's just my take. But appreciate you rocking with me. Red or white, who gets the interview? Kubiak first, Raiders or Cardinals? So I don't know if he already had his Cardinals interview. I don't know when that's scheduled. And so I don't know. I mean, hopefully, if we're first, hopefully he cancels the Cardinals one. If the Cardinals is first, hopefully we get last dibs on him and last impressions. So, but chat, let us know if there's already a schedule with the Cardinals. I don't know yet, to be honest. Federo, what's going on, man? We're not trading back at all. All right, man. I know a lot of people want to stick. I'm with you. We'll talk about it. Let's see. All right, Rose. Okay, Jason in Seattle. Okay. All right. Let's see. Vegas Raiders, what's going on, man? Seahawks has may have new ownership. I know. I actually just heard that the Seahawks, after this season, that entire organization, or they're basically selling off the organization, which is crazy. It's going to be up for sale. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Kubiak will have no earned loyalty to new ownership. Another reason he comes to the Raiders. I hope so. Nah, man. Power's out. Better drink all my beers before the fridge. Oh, yeah. Hey, drink up, brother. I'm with you. Here we go. Cheers to you. I know that I don't know if that cold storm is still ripping through you, man. I hope everything's good over there. Frank, what's going on, man? What is happening? Coach, you're saying the issue is that at number one, Raiders can get a better player at their position and still fill a need. They do need a quarterback. Yes, they do. We all agree they need a quarterback, but Mendoza isn't the better at quarterback. Let's say Bain is at DN. Okay, I think there is a you can definitely say that Mendoza is the number one projected pick, not because he's the number one at his overall prospect in the draft. I think he's the projected number one because we have the number one and we need a quarterback, right? If you go and take a look, and I'm gonna pick up a website that basically has the best overall draft picks in this draft, not based on the fact that we have number one, the basically the top prospects. And I'm going to pick that up and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I definitely want to say what's up to everybody. I definitely want to chop it up, but I agree. I mean, you put Mendoza in other draft classes, he ain't it. He's not it. I mean, he's not better than the top number ones that have come out in the last 6 draft classes. So that's what's really tough. And I'm going to talk a little bit more as to why I think that is. And it's not because he can't be good. It's because, and I know I went on a live a couple weeks ago after that national championship, and I've done a lot more research on him, especially when he played at Cal. And I definitely have a little bit of feedback on that. So we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about it. And then see, Cobain, you said we do not trade back. Chicago missed on Justin Fields. Now you got to give Ryan Poles over there a lot of credit, because he did the ballsy move of trading back after Bryce Young was there. And a lot of people liked Bryce Young. So he traded back, and he did a hell of a job of just bolstering that offense, or the weapons around the quarterback, and then getting his guy in Caleb Williams. You look kind of where they're at today. Now, the one thing I want to say to everybody is that I'm not going to trade back. I'm not going to not take Fernando Mendoza because we need to build around him. Right, you can build around a quarterback and sit him for 1 year. So that I will take the quarterback if I think he is the guy. That's what I base my my decision on whether or not I'm going to pick Mendoza. Is he the guy, and is he worth the number one overall draft pick? Just because we don't have the pieces has no bearing as to whether or not I'll pick Mendoza. Because you can pick Mendoza, you can build in the draft, you can build in free agency, you can sit him for 1 year, and then you can continue to build in next year free agency and next year's draft, and then start him in year 2. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, why'd you get him at number one and just sit him? Well, as a quarterback, you have to. You have to sit your quarterback the majority of their first year. I'm an advocate of sitting him for the entire year, because it's short-term pain for long-term gain. I'll sit him for 1 year and allow him to learn and understand the game and know that I have a better chance at him having success for the next 13 to 15 years. That's what I'm looking for. I could care less about the first year. If I think he's worth the number one overall, then I am getting him without question, and I'm going to sit him an entire year. I could care less what we look like the following year, because guess what? If we end up playing like crap and getting a 4th pick or 5th pick, well, guess what? You just have a high pick now to continue to build around that quarterback that you drafted, that you think is your franchise guy that you want for the next 12, 13 to 15 years. And so I could care less what the next year looks like, as long as we have a direction, as long as we're building, as long as that guy is worth that number one overall pick. So again, that's just my take, but we'll talk more about the quarterback. And so, do me a favor, guys, if you have a comment or question to what I'm talking about, hit the hashtag Raiders. We've got 160 in the building between YouTube and Twitter. If you guys are over at Twitter, jump over to YouTube, Real Talk Raider Nation. That's where I can see your chat. Get involved in it, and I appreciate everybody rocking. Hit that sub button, hit that like button if you can. If you want to get included in the chat, hit that sub button. Let's see. I just want to say what's up to everybody else that's kind of creeping up in here. Let's see. Yeah, man, cold as witch stays in snow like a biatch. About to fire up the Jenny and wood stove, man. Hey, get it fired up, bro. Get comfortable. We'll drink together. Appreciate you, man. Omega LX. Omega in the building. You see the report we almost traded for McCarthy? Yes, I did see that. I did see the report that there was rumblings and potential trade that was going to go down last offseason, or I don't know, last offseason. I don't know if it pinpointed exactly when we were going to potentially trade, pull off that target. Had it been before the draft, because I'm assuming that you might have given up draft capital. Look, I wasn't the biggest fan of McCarthy coming out of that draft last year, I believe it was. Last year? Wasn't the biggest fan because I think McCarthy, he's got the tools to be a good quarterback, but I think no knock to a game manager, but I think McCarthy is he's just a big project. And so I wouldn't have wanted to give up draft capital. Sorry, he got drafted 2 years ago. My bad. He got hurt that first year. I wouldn't want to give up draft capital to get McCarthy. And so I wouldn't have liked to kind of see that move pulled off because I just wasn't a big McCarthy fan. I think he's like the epitome of kind of a low-end game manager. So I wouldn't have given him draft capital, but I did see that, man. Chat, let me know and pull it up. Let me know if you guys wanted to potentially trade for or acquire McCarthy. If you liked him coming out of the draft, let me know. All right, I think I'm kind of getting down to the bottom. Let's see. Cobain, you're saying if Cousins. Let's see. Sacktown, hold on. Said he would have my fourth or fifth last year. Let's see. Coach saying you like Caden Proctor. I know. Kind of people are talking about Caden Proctor. There's a couple guys that I'm liking. I mean, I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you in just my opinion. You guys can agree or disagree with me, but in my opinion, I think what's really difficult about this draft is I think it's probably one of the worst draft classes I've seen in a very long time. And if you look at each and every position, you look at the receiver group. There's no Tyrone McMillan in this receiver group. There's really no Malik Neighbors. There's no Justin Jefferson. Even with the offensive line, you don't see a Joe Alt in this offensive line group. You see some good offensive linemen, but Joe Alt was a monster. I mean, you go look back at Joe Alt's film, and he's an absolute monster. There's no Joe Alt in this draft class. I even question Ruben Bain. I think Ruben Bain could be a good edge rusher, but pick him at 1 or pick him in the top 5. I just don't think he's that good. I think he's a very solid potential run stopper. But when it comes to his natural pass rush, I think he's going to get eaten up by offensive tackles in the National Football League. And so it's really hard to look at this draft class and compare it to some of the other draft classes and some of the top guys that were, just considered the top at that class or their position group. I just don't see the comparison. I don't even know if there's a Brock Bowers in this draft class. It's just so, I think maybe I honestly, in my opinion, I think this is probably one of the worst draft classes overall in a very long time. And us sitting at 1 is really tough because then you have to take into consideration, do you want to move back and stockpile a bunch of draft capital, not just in this year, but next year's draft, that's where I'm really, really struggling with. So, yeah, Cobain, you said if Cousins is released, we'll sit him if need be. If Cousins is released, I don't want Cousins over here. I mean, if you go with a young quarterback and you need a replacement and Geno's gone, then you got to get a veteran. If you cut him and you don't have to mess with any of that contract, then okay, maybe you can consider it. I don't like Cousins at all. I think I don't really want him. If you look at just the free agent quarterbacks and if you need a bridge quarterback, I'd take a swing at Marcus Mariota. If you have the young quarterback in the room, right? If you have him on the roster, I'm okay with bringing in Marcus Mariota. Again, you're just trying to. It's a bridge quarterback for 1 year. I think Marcus Mariota can kind of help you sustain some drives, but I think what's more important is he understands his role. He'll try to minimize some turnovers, but he's been in the league long enough to where I think he understands he's the number two. He'll understand his role, and he'll help teach that future quarterback. And so Marcus Mariota, of the quarterbacks that are available right now, that's one guy that I'd be okay with as a bridge, in my opinion. What up, Money Chuck? All right, Mendoza, ball placement, decision making. Okay, ball placement, very good. I'm with you on that. Decision making. For what he was asked to do, yes, decision making. His RPO reads are on point. Ball placement, accuracy, velocity on the football. His pre-snap read to see it. I agree. It's very good. Of what he was asked to do at Indiana, he was extremely good at it. The ability to read defenses. That's where me and you will disagree. And we got stuff to talk about. We'll definitely talk about it. His ability to read defenses, I disagree because I don't think he was asked to do that. Even his head coach said he was basically a one-read quarterback. He was basically one-read check down. That's kind of what he was asked to do. And so to say that he is elite or really good at reading defenses, he really wasn't asked to do that in Indiana. He was asked to do that more at Cal, and you saw it more. So I went back and I was able to find 5 games at Cal to kind of see what he did. And I'll be dead honest with you guys. I think he was asked to do more at Cal. You can see more variety in his throws. You can still see some of the knocks on him that I have, his inability to kind of go through his progressions. His eyes drop very quickly. I think he wants to run a lot. As he kind of gets through his first and second progression, you could see his helmet drop. But then he goes to Indiana, and he's not asked to do all that. And I think, again, what he was asked to do, he was very good at. Ball placement, accuracy, velocity on the football. I'm not going to disagree with his arm strength. Problem is I'm actually, the more and more I watch this Cal tape, and every game, I watched every game, every throw at Indiana, and I'll be honest, I think what he did at Indiana, what he was asked to do, the talent he had around him, just the way that offense was structured, I actually think it hurt his development, to be dead honest with you. I think it hurt his development, and that's why I have question marks. If he would have stayed at Cal and he was forced to do more, he was forced to be the guy, forced to truly go through his progressions. I mean, Indiana won games through the ground game. That's how they won the majority of their games. Even when it was time for him to win the football game in that national championship, it wasn't the run. The run was great. The run that he had was amazing. I'm not knocking him on that. But when he had the chance to seal the game against Miami, 3rd and 6, a minute 50 left, you get the first down on Miami's 18-yard line. They only have, I believe, 1 timeout left. You seal it. Done. You win the national championship. If you kick the field goal, they're only up by 4. If you kick the field goal, which they end up doing, then you give Miami the ball back with a minute, I think 45 left, or a minute 40 left. And Miami was just gaining momentum on offense. You kick the field goal, you only go up by 7. Miami can drive back down with a minute, I think it was like a minute 40 left. Every first down, the clock stops. They could score a touchdown and get the 2-point conversion and win the national championship. But what do you do on 3rd and 6? You run the football. You don't put it in your Heisman Trophy winning's hands and go for the kill, go for their throat, shut the game down. They run the football. You kick the field goal, you go up by 7, you give Miami the ball back with a chance to go down scoring and get a 2-point conversion to win the national championship. Like there was opportunities for them to truly put the game in his hands, and and it's not that he can't do it. They didn't do it. Now he did have some good throws earlier in the season, right? The Penn State game. You can point to moments that he had clutch throws. I'm not taking that away from him, but it's about the body of work. And the body of work tells me that Indiana did not rely on him to win football games more than they just relied on the running game. Fernando Mendoza went into every single football game basically saying, hey, I got to hand this ball off 30 to 35 times a game. It wasn't on his shoulders. The running game won the majority of the football games. So that's where, again, I'm not saying he can't do it. I actually think him going to Indiana and just how well just put together that team was, not just on the offense, but defense, special teams, everything. That was like the perfect offense for what they had. And they didn't have to ask much of Mendoza at all. And he didn't have to go through reads consistently. So, again, that's why I just have questions. It's not that I don't think he can do it, but, man, I'm a firm believer that based on what Indiana asked Mendoza to do, I actually think it hurt his development as a quarterback. If he would have had to play again at Cal and be forced to truly go through reads on a constant basis and more opportunity for him to be the guy, I think it would have helped his development and understand how to work through progressions. He didn't have to do it. It was, I want to say, a lot of people go back to that. It was the Illinois game. The Illinois game, I mean, they ran, like, I think in upwards of almost 80% RPO. RPO is not reading a defense, right? Yes, it's pre-snap, post-snap, but guess what? The NFL barely runs RPO. So it's not helping with his development to what he's supposed to or he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. And so that's why, again, it's just question marks. That's what I got. And when you have question marks as the number one overall draft pick, it's just really hard to say, yes, that's the guy and that's what I'm doing. So that's my feedback. All right. And I'm sure chat agree or disagree. Let me know. Fix it, Daddy. What's going on, man? What's happening, man? Dominique McCarthy is really young. He'll be fine. He is young and he could definitely develop. I agree. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of my initial assessment, but you get under a good offensive coordinator, stuff like that. They can help you with your development. It just depends on what your ceiling is. But yes, I agree. He is still young without question. What up, Bueno? What's going on, man? McCarthy's going through his Darnold phase. Maybe. What up, Super? What's going on, brother? Appreciate you popping up in here as well. Dominique, you're saying it is a really bad draft class overall. I do think so, man. You look at just the top tier talent in this draft class. You compare it to other draft classes. It's hard. It is hard to really compare it. Omega, the top end talent is not great. I agree, Coach. Is it me or is the draft class always super bad when the Raiders bottom out? I've already said this with Severe and Chris. I was like, look, leave it to us. Leave it to the luck that we get, that we have the number one overall. And again, I know people look at, Fernando Mendoza as he is the guy, okay? And so that's perfectly fine. But, leave it to us getting the number one overall draft pick in probably, honestly, the worst draft class in a very long time. And so it's just our luck. It's our luck. And so, Super, you see more monstrous O-line. What about Caden Proctor, a top-tier prospect due to his elite size? It's like the Miami tackle, right? Miami has a massive, I think that kid's like 7 feet or like 7'6" or something like that. You got some really big linemen in this draft class, right? And so I want to watch more of him. I haven't watched a lot on Caden Proctor, but I will definitely do my homework because if I want to trade back, then that's definitely one guy I'm going to be paying attention to. And so, but you definitely have some big offensive linemen. Remember, a big offensive lineman doesn't necessarily always just automatically equal great in the NFL. And so, but I'm gonna do more research. Yeah, man, hardly ever is a Brock Bowers in the draft class. I agree. Dominic Titan from Oregon is a beast. He is. I do like that kid, but man, I don't think he touches Brock Bowers talent wise. But the kid is good. But I put Brock Bowers way over him, in my opinion. And I did a lot of research on Dante Moore and just kind of watching his game film. And yeah, you see what Brock Bowers did at Georgia versus what kind of he's doing. Dante Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good tight end, but man, I still think Brock Bowers is just kind of head and shoulders above everybody that's kind of coming out of this draft class. Alex in the building. What's going on, man? All right. I want to say what's up to everybody. Do me a favor again. If you guys are talking anything about this topic or what I'm talking about, hit that hashtag Raiders. I would definitely appreciate it. Super. What up, man? Winston's heading to the broadcasting booth. Is he? We'll see. Man, I think AOC has been through the ringer enough to bridge a rookie quarterback. He would be great influence on Mendoza. No need to get a vet. Okay, so the only thing I'll say about that man, in my opinion, is you want to have a vet in the building, even if you get a Fernando, right? Even if you draft Fernando, you want to have a vet in the building because Aiden O'Connell is still young himself. Like, just like you just said, he's gone through the ringer. And you got to believe, like, he probably hasn't had the best coaches in the world coaching him. And so like Aiden O'Connell would even benefit from a veteran coming in. Like, even if the veteran didn't start, even if the veteran didn't even play and you let Aiden O'Connell play, the veteran's going to help with Aiden O'Connell's development. And I think we would do him some justice by getting a veteran in the building, again, whether they play or not, to help Aiden O'Connell develop as a quarterback. Because we have put him through the ringer. I mean, switching up offensive coordinator, then he hurts his thumb, he gets his opportunity. It's just he's had a very rough go his first 3 years with us. Get a veteran in the building to even help him with his development. I don't think Aiden O'Connell is ready to help develop a young quarterback. He doesn't have that. He's not seasoned enough. He doesn't have it underneath him in order to just the knowledge of the game at this point, because he hasn't been, I honestly don't think he's been taught it from somebody that's well worth being able to kind of teach him that game. So bring in a veteran, help with even his development so that we can kind of do right by him. So again, great. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but that's just kind of my take on it. Money Chuck. All right, yeah. And look, there's a lot to like. And I'm not saying that, like, if we get Clint Kubiak and we draft Mendoza, then my hope is that Kubiak can develop him and grow upon what you saw at Cal. Because I do think he was asked to do a lot more at Cal, and you saw more variety of throws. You saw him be able to kind of, on a more consistent basis, have to make NFL-style throws, hitting the seams, hitting the deep dig routes, right? More flood concepts to where he's kind of layering throws. I think he was just asked more to do that at Cal, and it was a great – I would say that if he was like a prototypical – if he would have had another year, it's like Drew Aller. I liked Drew Aller 2 years ago, and I knew that Drew Aller needed one more year. And I think that's what Fernando Mendoza, if you watch his Cal tape, he just needed one more year. But unfortunately, I think his one more year went to an Indiana team that didn't help him with his progression on how to be a pro quarterback and just sharpen those skills. Again, not to say he can't do it, and maybe Kubiak can get the best out of him. So I'll be cautiously optimistic if we get Kubiak and we draft Fernando Mendoza. Yvette, appreciate you popping up in here. I got Kubiak as our head coach. Let's go. I think there's a large majority of the fan base that wants Kubiak, and I'm right there with you. Kubiak's been my number one for quite a while now. I hope we get some good news. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow again. You might get some leaks out there at some point, but an official announcement, that might take after the Super Bowl. I think it's, what is it, February 9th or 8th or whatever the Monday after Super Bowl is. Let's hope we get some good news. So we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you rocking with me on a Friday. Appreciate the super chat. Let's see. Hater obviously is going to have to make some adaptations to the NFL. Obviously he's going to need some more polish, yes, and some more work that's expected at him. And any rookie quarterback, he's still the pick. Okay, I am with you, right? Every quarterback. Let's do this. I'm not even saying every quarterback. Every player that goes from college to the pros, it's a culture shock. It is. the pros are the best in the world, right? And the reason why it's a big culture shock is because a lot of players in college, there's a massive fluctuation in talent, right? You could be playing the best of the best in college, right? And then you're going to go play a small D1 school, right? And so you're really only going to play maybe 3 or 4 games your college career, the last year of college. You're probably only going to play 3, 4, maybe at times 5 games where you're playing the top of the top in college football, right? And then what are you going to do? You're going to go to the NFL where you're playing the best in the world. I don't care if you're the number 1 college football player. There is still a massive culture shock going from college to the NFL. That's why you look at the past, I want to say 19 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Only 2 of them have made it to a Super Bowl. Why? Because the learning curve is massive for any college player coming to the NFL. And so, yes, they're going to have to learn. And that's why I'm a massive advocate. I've said this well before the Tom Brady stuff came out. I'm a massive advocate for the quarterback to sit an entire year, that his rookie year, because he's got to learn. The things that you do in college, you're not going to be asked to do in the NFL. And the defensive schemes are night and day different than college because the offensive structure is different. The offensive game plan is different in college than it is in the NFL. And so the defenses that they're going to see, they don't see in college. So you have to learn that. You have to understand the tendencies of defenses. And so it's a culture shock. And so I'm with you, you know what I'm saying? And that's why, as much as I might have my preference, if we get Mendoza, I think Mendoza does have a lot of great skill set to bring to the NFL. You match him up with the right offensive coordinator, offensive mind. You help him like any quarterback needs help, right? Then I do think there's promise. But again, I just have question marks, and I'm basing that off of the value of the number 1 overall pick. And man, if the Jets want to offer us 3 first-rounders, I might be I might be taking that. But again, I got to do more research on the rest of the prospects. Bob in the building, what's going on, man? I guess going undefeated means nothing to some people. They went undefeated, and I think you're talking about Indiana. They went undefeated, but you got to remember the majority of the games were won by their ground game. It wasn't won by Mendoza. So you can kind of take away that 16-0 or undefeated. I guess you can't associate that to Mendoza, because they won through the ground game the majority of their games. All right, he was a piece to it, yes, but he wasn't the piece to it. Let's see. Wardlow, what's going on, man? He sealed the deal against Alabama. I'm not saying that there were games that he was able to be the guy, right? You got the Penn State game. I'm not saying there wasn't situations where he was the guy, right? But again, I'm all basing it off of the number 1 overall pick. Let's see. Troy Gill, if the Jets, I think he said, want Mendoza, are willing to give 3 first-rounder picks, I would accept it. I would too. Did someone say run the ball and you win? Sean McDermott. I'm with you, Jason. Billy in the building, what's going on, man? No way we trade the first pick. All right. Money Chuck Fernando came through against Miami with 2 big 4th down plays and a rushing T also in the clutch. Ohio State. You know, look, the 4th down plays, they were clutch, but again, kind of go back and look at what that was, right? It's a staple of what they did. It's back shoulder fades type of stuff, right? And you're not going to get that consistently in the NFL. You're just not. It's great when you have the chemistry, but the problem is you have the guys that perfected the back shoulder fade originally, right? You have the Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams connection, right? They were the ones that kind of they perfected that back shoulder fade in the NFL. And when you can perfect it, it is deadly. Don't get me wrong. But guess what? Over time, they were so good at it and so often is because they were one of the ones that basically brought it to the NFL. And so defensive coordinators and cornerbacks, they now had to learn, how do I defend it? They didn't know how to defend it at the time. But what happened? Defensive coordinators started to understand how do you defend it. Cornerbacks started to understand the technique on how to defend that back shoulder fade, and they figured it out. And not to say it doesn't work, but it's not going to work as often. You can't rely on it anymore in the NFL. It could be part of what you want to do, but that can't be your go-to 80% of the time. And so it's good to have it. It's good to have that connection, and it's beautiful when you see it. But cornerbacks and defense coordinators have figured out how do we defend it, and that's why you don't see it as often as you did with like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They did it when nobody knew how to defend it. And now defensive coordinators and cornerbacks, they've kind of figured out, okay, this is how we're going to play it. And now you don't see it as often. And you're just not going to be able to rely on it. And so, yes, he did have some clutch plays. But again, what were those clutch plays? It's just the normal. It's what they were doing all season long. So, and again, one of those clutch fourth downs was more on what, Becker? Becker, that was a hell of a catch, right? And so I'm not going to take away from the throw, but that was also a damn good adjustment by Becker. But that's just the connection they had all season long. Let's see. All right, we're going to have to kind of go through this. Let's see. John Fallon, no offense. That's what a QB coach is for. Yeah, I mean, we got to get a QB coach in. I don't know what you're referencing to exactly, but let's see. Jason. So I haven't said RPO appetite. Is safe to say Herbert will amount to a championship QB. So having said RPO appetite, I think it's safe to say Herbert will amount to a championship QB. I don't know if that's a question to me. Are you saying that because Herbert lived off of the RPO when he was in Oregon? Clarify just a little bit. I'll definitely get to it. Billy, he's the first true number one I've seen come out in a long time. Ooh, that is, I don't agree with that. There's been, and it's hard because a lot of people will assume it's a true number one, and a lot of times true number ones don't pan out. I mean, again, you just look at history and how many times number ones don't actually pan out, and a lot of people would bet money that they're going to be the next, Super Bowl winning quarterback or what have you, and it just doesn't pan out. Now, again, a lot has to do with just the way that the teams kind of handle them, but that's been said plenty of times in the past, and it doesn't. So I don't necessarily just kind of lean on that per se. Coach 6'9", 345, Bell. All right, let's see. Nada in the building. What's going on, man? Derek Carter, #Raiders. Appreciate you. I think the traits he has displays are winning traits: physical toughness, mental toughness, gamer, clutch, 6'5", 225, good arm, pretty accurate. Come on, nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect, right? I'm 100% with you. One thing that I look for is how often. Maybe I'll go through a little bit of what I look for in quarterbacks, right? And a lot of stuff you're saying is he does have. He is a gamer. He's got mental toughness. I'm not going to disagree with that. But there's NFL caliber throws, right? A lot of times his accuracy and ball placement is extremely good, but it's because he's a one read to check down quarterback. And so like 80% of his throws, he's able to settle his feet, get the ball quick and throw. I mean, that means that you don't really have much obstruction, right? So a lot of your throws are going to be just on time and accurate. And he's able to set his feet. Now watch when he has to move his feet. Watch when he move off this spot. His accuracy starts to dip. All right, we're going to break down the game film. I'll show you. And so his accuracy starts to dip when he's moved off his spot. I mean, look at the late throw. Look at the late throw against Miami. I want to say it was maybe the fourth quarter, I believe, maybe even the third. Miami kind of started to get to him, and then they basically had a design play. He had a quarter roll to his left. So he was kind of on the move a little bit, had a quarter roll to his left, and it was a kind of a deep out route to Surratt. And it was behind him and low. It was an inaccurate throw. All right, that was kind of one of the times out of the few that he had to kind of move off of his spot, and it was an inaccurate throw. Not saying he's inaccurate all the time, but his accuracy starts to drop off. But one of the things that I want to see out of a quarterback is when you're moved off your spot, how is your accuracy? And there's quite a few times where his accuracy drops off. But again, it didn't happen a lot. He wasn't, because a lot of times 80% of his throws are one read timing throws and RPOs. So he wasn't asked to do it a lot. In addition to that, I want to know, how do you work the middle of the field? How do you hit the seams? How do you hit the deep dig routes? He did it more at Cal, but not a lot at Indiana. Not a lot at all. And that's what I want to see. Not only how do you work the middle of the field, but also how do you work the middle of the field when you're moved off your spot just a little bit. That was one of my biggest knocks on Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders did not work the middle of the field very well, but also at the same time, when he got to his third and fourth read, you saw he drifted naturally in the pocket, which he didn't need to. That was one of my knocks. But two, when he drifted in the pocket, or when he got to his third and fourth read, his accuracy definitely started to fall off. I mean, and when he got to his third and fourth read, he didn't do a good job of finding the holes in the defense, right? I think he thought his arm was a little bit stronger than it was, and he didn't allow his body to get the right proper throwing position to make an accurate throw on his third and fourth read. And so that's what I want to see. You're going to have to do that in the NFL. And so Mendoza wasn't asked to do that a lot in Indiana. And that's why I think it hurt his development as a quarterback and what he's going to ask to do. He's going to be asked to do in National Football League. And the amount of crap that I got saying that I had a third round grade on Shedeur Sanders because of a lot of things that I saw. I got a lot of crap too, so that's fine. You guys can throw it at me. That's fine. But that's what I want to see Fernando Mendoza do more of, and he just wasn't asked to do a lot of it. And so that's why, again, it just raises the question marks for me. But that's one of the things I loved about Bo Nix. A lot of people hated on me because people hated Bo Nix. People thought Bo Nix was going to be absolute trash. Well, guess what? Bo Nix showed a lot of NFL-style throws, even on the run and on the move, and his accuracy, his ball placement on the run and on the move was elite, in my opinion. And that's why I thought he could be a good quarterback in the National Football League. Got a lot of shit for that, too. I thought Tyler Shook was one of the better quarterbacks coming out of last year's draft. I had him third on my list. Got a lot of shit for that. So, again, that's just kind of how I evaluate quarterbacks. And I kind of go back to it, and I apologize. I'm probably really behind in the chat. I'm gonna get to everybody, I promise. I think Indiana just hurt his development as a quarterback because he wasn't asked to do things that he's gonna have to do in the NFL on a consistent basis. So I just have the question marks. Cosmo, what's going on, man? Any concern about Mendoza being a heavy RPO? I do have a lot of concerns with that. Was he required at Cal or Indiana to go under center? Great content as always. I appreciate you. I was only able to see, I think, 4 games out of Cal. It didn't look like he went under center too much at all at Cal. Again, I only have access to what I can see on YouTube. But I think he was asked to do more at Cal, which I would have loved to see him kind of replicate what he did at Cal just another year to grow as a quarterback. And again, he didn't have to do it at Indiana. Not enough to where I think he progressed well as a quarterback in the things that he needs to do. Money Chick said, I don't know. All I saw was Mendoza throwing beautiful NFL caliber balls. Very few INTs, making playoffs in critical times and winning. Okay. Let's see. What up, Dre? What's going on, man? How can you say this is the worst draft class ever and they haven't even played it down in the NFL yet? It's just about evaluations, right? I mean, you want to evaluate these players at the college level and how that talent that they show on the field translates to the NFL. And so, yes, I agree. Like, you don't know until they actually play. But again, it's all about the evaluations. Like, I don't see a Malik Neighbors in this draft. I don't, at least based on what they showed in college. I don't see a Tedderone McMillan. He was my number 1 receiver last year. Again, I don't see a Joe Alt. I'm telling you, like, I don't see an offensive lineman that is the caliber of Joe Alt, at least the prospect he was. So, yeah, you got to wait for everybody to potentially play in the NFL and just see what they end up being. But with an initial assessment of what they look like in college and how it translates to the NFL, I do think it's probably one of the weaker draft classes we've seen in a long time. Let's see. Pigs might not be Bowers, but there is Towers. What up, Raider Menace? What's going on, man? Appreciate you guys. Do me a big favor. Hit the hashtag Raiders if you guys do have a comment to what I'm talking about. It'll catch my eye. Got about 220 in the building right now. If you're over on Twitter, jump over to YouTube, get involved. Hit that sub button if you want to get included in chat. I appreciate y'all rocking with me on this Friday. Shout out to you guys. I'm going to have to do a refill. Shout out to Nab, man. Hopefully you're staying warm over there. Edgar, what's going on, man? All right, man. Hey, I got that same hate about Shador not being a first-round prospect, and I got that hate about Bo Nix as well. So it's all good. It's all good, man. You can roll with me or not. Trust me. I don't do this for work. I do this because I stopped coaching football. And now I get to come on here and kind of do my evaluations. And I'll tell you right now, I'm more right than I am wrong. Much more right than I am wrong. So, and I love it because I got the history now to prove it. So you can go back and check me. I love it. Let's see. Coach, I'd rather roll the dice on a really massive offensive lineman. And I will say, I hate saying this, but at the same time, I hate saying this because, look, I want a quarterback just as much as everybody else. But I hate saying this, is that I also think the quarterback draft class next year is going to be damn good. I think it's going to be damn good, the quarterback draft class next year. And so, again, I hate banking on that because injuries happen. You just don't know if you like a prospect. Like, look, Drew Aller, he was one of the top prospects coming out, and all of a sudden, bang, he gets hurt, right? So I hate banking on that. But I'm just going to look at Mendoza and what my assessment of him as the number one overall draft pick. But in the back of my mind, it sucks because I do think next year's quarterback draft class is going to be absolutely nasty. So, John, here to 5, do you think the sale of the Seahawks helps us get Kubiak? I honestly don't know how much that reflects it. I mean, unless they come in and I can't, if they win the Super Bowl, I don't think so at all. Even if they lose the Super Bowl, I mean, you literally have a young coaching staff, a young head coach that is basically taking this team to the Super Bowl. You're not going to replace them. So I don't think it really affects anything in as it relates to Kubiak, because no matter who comes in and buys that team, they're going to keep a Mike Macdonald over there. So if you keep Mike Macdonald, McDonald's going to keep Kubiak. So I just don't think it affects them. What up, God family? What's going on, man? Appreciate you popping up in here. Again, guys, do me a huge favor. Hit that hashtag Raiders if you can. John Fallon, I'm super plus Alec Pierce. You like Alec Pierce? I think that's what you're saying. He's a really good prospect. I'd love to see just kind of what his asking price is going to be, coming into free agency. So, but he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on because I'll be honest, as it stands right now, I think we have one of the worst receiver rooms as a whole in the National Football League. Jack Best didn't show much. Obviously, got to try to get him the ball a little bit more. But as we break down game film, which we always do during the season, I think he struggled to get separation. Now, he's a rookie. You can continue to improve and try to show progress. But I just was not high on him out of college at all. And Deontay Thornton, I think, is struggling, to say the least. And then you got Trey Tucker, and so we need help. We need help. So I think definitely we got to pay attention to Alec Pierce, just kind of see what his number is going to look like. But I definitely want to address it in the draft as well. Big Little Bosco, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you popping up in here. You're saying with a QB situation, what's available to the free agent market and what we actually can control in draft. Mendoza makes sense. And I think Kirk Cousins will be a good bridge quarterback for him. I agree. The one thing I will say about Kirk Cousins is I think he'd be willing to teach the next guy. He has that personality. He's got enough knowledge of the game to teach the next guy. So if we brought him in, as long as he was cut by the Falcons, right, we don't have to take on that contract. We don't have to trade anything for him. I think that would be a decent idea. But for what's available right now, I still kind of lean Marcus Mariota. And so, but yeah, I mean, of what we can control, again, I'm just weighing Mendoza, or if Jets want to give us 3 first rounders, man, it could set us up for the future. Because I'm a firm believer, you got to build through the draft. It'd be wild to kind of have that type of draft capital. But I know a lot of people love Mendoza, so I'm sure the hate will be thrown my way. Cobain, Mendoza ain't going to be asked to do everything he did in Cali. He's going to be more unleashed to start, just make make the easy plays early. Just remember, though, if you look at any quarterback that has found success, even as good as Matthew Stafford is, right? He is asked to move in the pocket. You got to be able to navigate the pocket. You got to be able to move around. You got to play. You got to work off platform throws. You got to be able to throw when your body isn't in the proper position. All the RPO work that he did, his body is in the perfect position because he's prepared for it, right? You even look at like Patrick Mahomes, and I know these are very special circumstances, but you look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at Matthew Stafford. Those no-look passes. I'm not saying every quarterback can do it. I'm just saying that that's just an example of quarterbacks got to get their body in the proper position very quickly. And even when you see it last second, can you make that off-platform throw and get the ball there with accuracy? And so he's going to be asked to do a lot. Even if you have weapons around you, even if you have Genty and all of a sudden he becomes an extremely good running back and we have one of the best running games in the National Football League, you're still going to be asked to do a lot of things that aren't just standard and easy. And the question is how well can he do that consistently enough to contribute and be a very good piece to the puzzle of this offense? And again, I'm not saying he can't do it. It's just I have questions on if he can, based on what he was asked to do consistently at Indiana. So, Derek Carr, you sound like a hater. If you're talking to me, no, I don't hate Fernando. I could go on a lot of things that I do like about Fernando, all right? So, not a hater. I don't even know how people kind of get that. I think we got to kind of get that just because I have questions doesn't equal, and again, that's if you're talking about me. Just because I have questions does not equal hater. If you guys want to take that route, that's perfectly fine. You do you. But yeah. Devalius, what's going on, man? Your last 2 shows were just a reason to not take Fernando. Let the team pick, not you. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the team they will make that decision, and we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Bueno, why isn't there more undefeated national championship winning teams in college that are run heavy? The only thing I will say is that Indiana was structured perfectly. I mean, their running backs, like, trust me, I want competition for Genty. I want competition at every single position. But when it comes to Genty, I still think Genty needs competition. He needs somebody behind him just to kind of push him, right? Keep him on his heels. But also because of the fact that running backs get hurt. A lot of times running backs get hurt. And so you need somebody that's going to be behind him, that's going to, even if you have to use him and Genty gets hurt, maybe it's for a half a game, maybe it's for a game or two. Knock on wood, hopefully we don't lose him, but maybe it's for a season. Like, you got to have somebody that's going to step in and still be able to maintain a decent run game. And so I'm telling you that Indiana running back, I think is the last name, I think it's Black, I believe it is. That kid looked like an absolute monster at Indiana. That's why that running game was so good. But I think because that offense was structured so perfectly, from the offensive line to the weapons that they have, I mean, just the chemistry that those guys had, it was a perfect. They were perfect pieces to execute the offense that offensive coordinator wanted to run. It was perfect, in my opinion, from just at every single position. And so they allowed that run game to be absolutely lethal. So, but at the same time, and look, I think it's the center that's over there. That center at Indiana, that guy's damn good. I'd love to see us potentially, if we end up keeping JPJ at guard, I'd definitely take a look at that center that they have over there. He looked like an absolute, beast. And so, but I think it's because you don't see a lot of teams go through the run game a lot. But don't get me wrong, I think you're going to see more teams do it, because I think Indiana is kind of setting the footprint of what college football is going to be. And I hate to derail it, because I would definitely want to get to some of the chat. But because of this new NIL stuff and because of the transfer portal, you're going to see the underdevelopment of quarterbacks, I think, in the coming years in the NFL. This is just my opinion. But you're no longer going to see quarterbacks stick to a team for two, 3 years. You're going to see quarterbacks move from team to team because of this whole NIL stuff, because of the transfer portal. And what happens when a quarterback goes to a brand new team? You're not going to be able to develop that quarterback in your system. So you're going to dial that system down. You're going to just use what that quarterback is good at and what fits what your offense can do well. And I think that's what Indiana just literally gave us the blueprint of what college football is going to what's going to look like in the next 3 years, 2, maybe 3 years. It's going to be dialed down because all these quarterbacks can't learn a system and be great at it in just one offseason. You can't get the chemistry with the receivers. You can't get just everything you need to be a really good dialed-in quarterback. You can't get that in one offseason. So I think that the development of the quarterback position is going to be dialed down here in the next couple of years because quarterbacks are going to be moving around all over the place. Receivers are going to be moving around all over the place because of the NIL and because of the transfer portal. Again, just my opinion, but I think Indiana set the blueprint of what we're going to see here. And I think we might start to see more run-heavy offenses and more RPO-heavy games because it's very easy to kind of implement that if you have the right pieces. And again, Indiana did it. Indiana did it well. Not going to lie. What up, Jason? Mendoza is the perfect example that statistics don't tell the story. He only had 2 games with 30 or more attempts. It doesn't tell the whole story. Yeah, like with Mendoza, you don't want to look at statistics only. I agree with you. But you can look at the body of work and what he was asked to do. And that's where I have the question marks. Red Hawaii, I think he wasn't asked to be the guy, but I don't doubt that he could do it if he needed to be. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. All right, I just want to kind of make sure I kind of get to everybody. Coach, what up, D-Mokes? What's going on, brother? Appreciate you. Sin City Raiders in the building. Raiders Report. What's going on, man? I've never seen a national championship where I felt the play calling was holding Mendoza back. And you can make that, and that's kind of the argument that I'm kind of making is I think the play calling did hold him back, and it held him back from just developing his skill set of being a quarterback. But it's because what they did on the ground game and through the RPO game, it works so well. So I think it just held back just his development. So, all right, let's see. Fanbo Podcast Trinidad from Ole Miss. I want the Raiders to draft him. Yeah, I know. I think they're trying to. I think Ole Miss is suing the NCAA or some maybe Trinidad Chambliss' camp is suing. I don't know what's going on there, but I think the deadline is coming up pretty quickly where he has to. He has to declare for the draft. But I think what is hurting him through this process is the fact that he's not playing in the Senior Bowl. He's not, or I don't know if he can play in the Senior Bowl because I know he's young. No, I think he can. I would love to see him play in the Senior Bowl. Just to kind of get a better idea of who he is. I think he played extremely well at Ole Miss. I think the upside is good, but he's just another example of a player that I think could just go back to school one more year. But again, looks like he's going to have to declare for the draft if he hasn't already, or if he doesn't win this whatever lawsuit he's going after the NCAA about. But damn it, I think he's a kid that could have benefited from the Senior Bowl tomorrow. So, King Alexander, what's going on, man? Jason, okay, yes, Herbert was an RPO warrior. That also was a knock on him. I'm starting to see it's catching up to him. Yeah, okay, so we agree. Yeah, he was an RPO warrior in Oregon, and so sometimes it transfers, sometimes it doesn't. So Deuce, what's going on, man? Wonder what the core principles will be for Kubiak and how he can get a QB1, QB2, and QB3, make the easy throws, and have easy buttons that all 3 quarterbacks can make in key situations in the red zone and simplicity. Yeah, it'll be interesting just to kind of see who he wants and who he wants to bring over. So we'll definitely figure it out. Well, hopefully we find out soon because we get an announcement pretty soon. Dominique, if we miss on Clint Kubiak and get Evero, it'll be a disaster. Okay, maybe we need to jump into it. I definitely want to say what's up to everybody. Bart, I see you. But Dominic, I appreciate the super chat. Bart, in the house. Sorry, I'm late. What up? What's going on, man? Appreciate you rocking with me. Not Andrew, what's going on, man? Jeff in the building. What's happening, man? Hey, guys, make sure you guys check out Jeff's because he's going to be going live. If not just Raider fans, but I think your Friday show is for everybody, all fan bases. So if everybody in the chat, if you know somebody that is a fan of another team, man, share the link. Jeff shows night, man, so he can get a little bit of love, man. Appreciate you rocking. And if I watch your six, the love for Fernando Mendoza is deep, and you keep talking his cons, and they're going to turn on you. Yes, they are. Experienced it last night. And they will. And trust me, man, I got thick skin from playing this game for a long time, coaching it. I got thick skin because, again, go back and look at my history on my takes on this YouTube thing. And trust me, the shit I've gotten in the past on a lot of them, but guess what? They turned out to be accurate. They turned out to be right. So one thing you'll get from me is I'm very confident in my takes. And so thick skin I do have. And I enjoy it. So, man, but I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate you rocking with me, guys. Make sure you guys double tap that screen. I appreciate you. A little bit of a Friday night. Let's get into some of this coaching talk, but I definitely want to so what's up to everybody. Mike Rain, what's going on, man? Appreciate you. This is why we get a bridge quarterback in Head Mendoza. J-Dog, I look forward to a new defensive scheme. Yeah, that's definitely something we need to talk about. Bebop in the building. What's happening, man? I heard the Jets are definitely going to try to move up, but we are not moving out to the first pick, especially now that we're going to get Kubiak. We'll see how it plays out. Appreciate your rock. And Money Check, what's your confidence level that Mendoza can correct his perceived deficiencies that you say? How coachable do you think he is? Okay, I think Fernando's very coachable. All right, I don't deny that. I think his work ethic is one of the things that you can definitely it's a great attribute to what Mendoza brings to the table. So I have no question that you could possibly coach him up to potentially do what you need him to do at the National Football League, right? But it just goes back to because I didn't see him do it a lot at Indiana. When you pick him at the number one overall, I just don't want those question marks. I want to see that he had to do it. I want to see that he was forced to do it. A lot of people kind of make the comparison of him and Joe Burrow, right? And yes, Joe Burrow had a lot of talent around him. I'm not going to knock that whatsoever. The difference is Joe Burrow went to every single game knowing that I'm going to have to throw the ball 40 plus times, and I got to be the guy. And when you throw the ball 40 plus times, you're throwing the ball all over the place. Yes, you have weapons. I don't deny that, but you're making NFL caliber throws on the deep dig routes, going to the seam. You're moving off your spot, and you're still making those off-platform throws the majority of the game. And Joe Burrow went into every single game knowing that I'm the success of this game, us winning this game is on my shoulders. That's what it was for Fernando Mendoza. He didn't have to go in the game knowing it's on my shoulders because he knew he had a running game behind him that was going to carry him the majority of the games. Now, did he have his moments? Without question, he had his moments, right? So it's all based on the number one overall draft pick, the value we can get out of that draft, and what we can build with 3 extra first-round draft picks. And guess what? I'm telling you right now, and again, you guys might hate me for this. If we move on from if we trade back and we don't get the quarterback this year, then I'm trading maxxcrosby. And the reason why I trade maxxcrosby is because you just look at his contract. If you go and get the quarterback next year, then you need 2, maybe 3 years to build that quarterback, and you're not going to find success for another 3 years with that quarterback, then guess what? maxxcrosby's contracts, it's nothing. He's no longer a part of this football team. You're not going to extend him after this year. So guess what? Trade him away, get I would want 2 first-rounders. If you can get 2 first-rounders out of Max, and now you have 5 first-rounders to build around, that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's what I'm comparing it to. So can Mendoza be coachable? I absolutely agree he can. I just don't like the fact that it's just the question marks I have. And the value that I hold with that number 1 overall draft pick and the expectations I have of that number 1 overall draft pick. And again, everybody can agree or disagree, right? It's just my perspective. You can sit there and go, hey, he's coachable. He can do it. Okay, I'm not going to sit there and say you're wrong, because to me, it's just my assessment of it. And it doesn't, just because I have an assessment of it, it's not me saying he can't do it. I just have the question marks. If you say he can, all right, more power to you. I'm with you. You do it, then you do you, and we'll see how it plays out. Super, right? Matt Ryan. Doesn't matter if he wasn't asked to do too much. He did and performed when in the clutch. I know a lot of people compare Mendoza to Matt Ryan. I know a lot of people throw that comparison out. John Fallon with the hashtag Raiders. Hey, do you think the scale, oh, my bad. I think you already put that out there. I think I'd answer that. I think that was you that put that out there. Hopefully you heard my answer. If that was you that put it out there before. Bebop, we're not moving out of the first pick. And from what I heard, even though the Jets are trying to move up to 1, especially that we are now getting Kubiak, they're definitely selling him Mendoza. Maybe. You could be absolutely right. Jason. Okay, you're talking to Jeff. Okay. Appreciate you. Let's see. Dominic, my bad. No, I think I got to it. My bad. I think I got to it. Did I? I hope I did. It was this one, right? I just want to make sure I did. I'm just real behind again. I can rarely do one-on-one, kind of do one-on-one lives with you guys. So I want to jump on here, kind of chop it up with you guys, give you my feedback on just my takes and my perspective. But remember, I go live with my guys in the Raider War Room. We're going to break down game film, all the Mendoza talk that I'm kind of sharing with you. Trust me, we're going to break down the game film of him. And I'll show you the kind of things. I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to show the good, the bad. I'm going to show, there's a lot to like about Mendoza. I'm also going to show his Cal film because I was able to get a hold of some of the Cal film. So I will definitely show examples of when he was asked to make those just NFL caliber throws at Cal and what is good about Mendoza, and what was good about him at Indiana. But I think he showed more versatility at Cal, and I'll definitely show it without question. Yeah, Dominic, make sure let me know. Make sure I got that super because I believe I did hit it again. I'm just really behind the chat. I apologize. Joe Deuces with the hashtag Raiders. Pierce contract market value is 4 years, $80 million, $20 million average salary. Not bad for a 25-year-old. The salary cap is going to go up. We have a lot of holes to fill. And so, again, depending on kind of what we do in the draft, you pay him $20 million. I got to think about that. I got to think about if I want to, or if you give him kind of a 4-year, $80 million. That's a tough one. I got to think about that one. Guys, let me know if you'd pull the trigger on a contract like that for Alec Pierce. Let me know in the comment section. I got to think about that one, to be honest with you. Cheers, everybody. Appreciate you popping up on this Friday. Dank in the building. What's going on, man? Appreciate you. Raider Hawaii, Justin Herbert completion percentage dips when 40% under pressure. That's definitely something to definitely take a look at. When under pressure, just kind of how do you perform? B-Win, yes, on Black. I think you're talking about the running back. Yeah, I like the kid. Ernest, man, I appreciate you. And just to be fair, like my opinions are just my opinions, right? But I will say, a lot of what I kind of talk about, a lot of things that I kind of try to share with you guys. Not gonna lie, it's not just kind of toot my own horn. Like it ends up being somewhat true for the most part. And I love being on YouTube now because you can kind of go back and watch the history, and we'll see how this one plays out. Bart, I agree on receiver from the Colts. Good hands, a great blocker, very unselfish player. I also agree next year's QB class is far better than this one. It is, man. It's hard to not just kind of have that in the back of your head, unfortunately. What else, Severe? Come on, man. If you know you're not feeling the exact way about a player that the media and the Raider fans are pushing, means you're a hater. I know. Going against the grain is a tough world. It's a tough world. I'm not going to lie. What up, man? Guys, make sure you guys go over to Severe. I rock out with him. Go the Severe Raider. Rock out with him in the Raider War Room as well on Wednesdays and Sundays, man. We have fun. And shout out to him. We're going to be at the draft. We're already trying to work out the plans. Let us know if you're going to be at the draft. We'll be there. We'll throw out some details. It'll be great to put names to faces. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be fun. Definitely rock out with us, man. Severe, appreciate you rocking out. Jeff, you talk Raiders football. I'm in. I like to. We're going to talk about some of the. It's funny. We're going to talk a little bit about the maybe the Hall of Famers if we can get to it. Some of the guys that got snubbed, stuff like that. But man, I even got to the coaching talk. Again, I try to just. So what's up to everybody that rocks with me? Rarely do I do a one-on-one. Cobain Mendoza won a championship with players nobody else wanted but Signetti. He beat all the top schools for the most part. One thing I will say is I know a lot of people talk about how, he won with a bunch of like 2 and 3-star players or whatever it is, right? When you develop a squad that looks that good all around, with 2 and 3-star athletes coming out of high school, what have you. And Signetti brought all these guys. One thing you got to remember is that Mendoza was brought onto this Indiana team last season, where a lot of those players came over from Signetti when he was with his previous school, and so a lot of these guys were second year with Signetti. Becker, the receiver, I believe that was year 2. No, not Becker. It was Cooper. Cooper was year 2, as well as Surratt. And so he got to build those guys. When you have an offense that's so dialed in the way that they are, because without question, they were not the most athletically talented team on the football field. Miami was the more talented team. But the thing is that the Indiana team was the better coach team. Signetti coached the crap out of that team. It was the better, well-coached team. Every time they stepped on the football field. They didn't have the most talent, but it was the most well-coached team. And that's what they had, and I credit that to coaching. You go back and you look at the plays that they ran. I guarantee you their playbook was like 30, 35 plays because they didn't run a lot. I think statistically, I want to say they ran anywhere between 60 to 65 RPOs a game on average, not on average, right? That tells me you had success with that. You ran the ball, you ran RPOs. Guess what? That is damn good coaching. And look, I know what that looks like because for all the years that I coached, I never had the most talented team. But I took teams to championships without having the most talent. I got accused 2 times for stealing playbooks because I could just understand and know the tendencies of the other team. They took me to boards half the time, and I had to literally show them how I broke their scout film down to say, look, these are their tendencies. That's exactly what they did. And so when you talk about the talent, yes, Mendoza won the championship, but I'm telling you, that team won the championship. Signetti coached the absolute crap out of that team to develop them into one of the most well put together teams I think I've seen in a long time. So yes, you can give Mendoza credit, but you better give that entire team credit, and you better give Signetti and that coaching staff all the credit because they dialed it up perfectly. So, my bad. That's my rant. Let's see. Pigs. Run game requires a lot of chemistry in the O-line. It does. And shout out to my guy Severe, man. He coined this phrase before, man. I love it, and he's absolutely 110% correct. Is the ceiling, your running back dictates the floor of your ceiling. Your offensive line dictates the ceiling of your running game, right? So hopefully I said it right. Your running back dictates the floor of your run game. Your offensive line dictates the ceiling. And I'm a firm believer of building the trenches. I've been an advocate for building the trenches the two drafts, 2 off seasons, and we just haven't done it right. But yes, the run game is all predicated off of the offensive line. The running back can accelerate it a little bit, but it's all about the offensive line. Mike Rain, #Raiders. What round do you see Coogan drafted in? Honestly, I don't know. I have to watch more of just the talent around the centers and stuff like that. And so I don't know where he'd go, to be dead honest with you. That's the hard part, man. Like for myself, I got a full-time job. I got a family I'm dedicated to. And so we have plenty of time up to the draft. And so I won't know kind of the depth of this draft until, I don't know, I'd give it another month or so until I can really start dialing in a lot of these prospects, but I don't know where Coogan will be. Ernesto, you're saying in the 4th round, Coogan. Okay, you got a kind of a 4th round projection on him. Show Coogan is a late day 2, early. Okay, all right. Dank, I think you're talking to me. Smarten up. All right. We'll see if that happens. Red and white, to win in today's NFL, you need to be able to run. Past defenses have figured it out. Look at what they're doing to Mahomes. I'm 100%. I don't know if you've heard me say this before. Look at when Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. Man, that was the closest to like an air raid offense you will see in the NFL. They did it well, right? They were able to stretch the field with Tyreek Hill. And then they had Travis Kelce to kind of hit underneath. I think Mecole Hardman was on that team as well. I mean, they were just deadly to be able to stretch the field. But what happened? Defenses figured it out. Defense kind of went to that the 2 high safety set. They run more of a cover 2 hybrid where you either are running a true cover 2, you might switch it to a palms look, you might roll the coverage with the safeties. They disguise it so damn well. They will even show like a cover 6 look where it's more cover 2 on one side and then a cover 3 on the back side. They even run a hybrid cover 2 look where if you run trips, typically if you see an offense run trips, they will roll safety to that side and they'll man up on the backside. But now you're seeing a lot of, in the trip set, you see a lot of cover 2 match. And a cover 2 match is kind of when you let the receivers run, but the defenders underneath will match up with the receiver that enters into their zone. And that's the way they kind of disguise it and switch it up. And so you're not going to see a lot of that in college. It just doesn't happen. And that's how I think the defense is. You look at Brian Flores is one of the best at doing it. If you watch defenses and the way that they're now starting to force offenses, force quarterbacks to hit the underneath routes, the timing routes, hit the seams, the in cuts, the dig routes, the quarterbacks are being forced to understand the chemistry timing of the route as well as find the hole in the defense. And that's why I think a lot of quarterbacks are struggling. I think that's why you see a fluctuation in performance in the quarterback game. Go look at all the top quarterbacks nowadays. There's 1 or 2 that will have, consistent numbers in the 300s. It's because they throw the ball 40, 45 times a game. But go look at some of the top quarterbacks, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens and stuff. Their numbers fluctuate because they know that they have to rely on the run game. And go back and look what the Chiefs offense looked like 4 or 5 years ago versus what it looks like in the last 2, maybe 3 years. It's completely changed because the defenses have adjusted to stop that deep threat game. And it's forcing quarterbacks to be better at timing, to be better at understanding the digs and the seams and all that stuff. And be able to move the safeties with your eyes, move the defense with your eyes, and go through your progressions and hit your 3rd and 4th read. And so you bring up a good point, and I've mentioned this before. The progression and the evolution of the offense from 4 or 5 years ago to today is very, very different. And I think for myself, that's why. That's why I look at certain aspects of a quarterback at college to see how does it transfer to the NFL in today's game. So, again, I apologize. I'm ranting. Again, I'm so far behind the chat. I apologize. Pigs, all the Porter players jumping around is going to hurt team's unity. Players will be looking to jump ship fast. Yes, they will. All right, Randy Pittman, what's going on, man? Appreciate you popping up in here. If I skip something you guys want me to definitely address them, and hit the hashtag Raiders, please. It'll catch my eye. I'll bring it up. I don't care if you're talking shit about me. It don't matter to me. Trust me. Again, like I said before, I got thick skin. We could work that out. Just took a dive. Man, man, shout out to you. Nah, man. Hopefully everything warms up for you over there. Doppelganger in the building. What's going on, man? Appreciate you rocking with me on a Friday, man. We're just going to try to hit this weekend off a little early and on a good note. Unless you hate my Mendoza takes, and you're probably, I'm getting the hell out of here. This guy don't know what he's talking about. That's fine. John Felton, I like the size of Mendoza a lot. The quarterbacks are not like that. Look at Josh Allen. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that will help kind of with this durability, right? When you look at that, I lean to quarterbacks that are at least 6'2" or taller. But yeah, with Mendoza and just kind of his size, I think the durability is going to be good. We'll see how that plays out. What up, Dick? Let's keep 5'10". Dark Knight, what's going on, man? That LSU team didn't have a great running game. Oh no, they had a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man. I think it was pretty solid over there. Not gonna lie. But he did have a lot of talent. No one's gonna argue the talent. But both Burrow and Mendoza knew at the end of the day it was on them. I don't think Mendoza knew it was on him. To be dead on, like, he wasn't asked on a consistent basis for him to take over and him to win it. Again, I said perfect example at the tail end of that Miami game. That coaching staff had an opportunity for him to literally seal it on a 3rd and 6, and they settled for a run play and they kicked the field goal to give Miami an opportunity to go back down and score with 140 or for a minute 40 plus on the clock and score a touchdown. And Miami had momentum in that second half. Score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, and they win the national championship. They didn't put it in his hands. And I'm just saying it's another example of him not having to do the work the majority of the time. Okay. All right. Red Ring, what's going on, man? Appreciate you. Again, if I skip something, let me know. If you definitely got something that you need to hit me with, then hit that hashtag Raiders. I want to just kind of get down the chat a little bit. John Fallon, what do you think of the contract? What do you think a contract would look like if we went after Tyler Linderbaum? And I would do that. And I would do that contract for Pierce. Man, so we will probably have to overpay for him. So knowing what the contract looks like today, I don't know. Because if you take what they assume a contract is going to be, we might have to overpay for someone like that. And what's really tough to understand what you have to pay for a top tier player at that position is, I give this example a lot. One of the guards that I really liked, I think it was 2 years ago, was Kevin Dotson. Was it Kevin Dotson? I think it was Kevin Dotson. He went to the Rams. He was the guard for the Rams. I liked that guy a lot. All of a sudden, the Rams literally just threw a contract that was crazy. And I think we're going to have to overpay to bring free agents here, top tier free agents. I think we're going to have to overpay. And I think there's going to be teams that are going to just skyrocket the market. And what we think the value is today may not be what the value is tomorrow. If there's that team that, like, look at what happened with Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, Cleveland broke the market with that contract. It's going to happen. We might be the ones to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so what we think the contract is today, it may not be tomorrow, because we might have to break that, break the bank to go bring somebody in. All of a sudden we skyrocket that market. So I'll do more research on just what I think it might take as it relates to what I think we need to pay to possibly get him over there, because Tyler Linderbaum is a guy I think a lot of teams will like. And if he's got a pick of the litter, if he's got, 5 options, maybe 6 to choose from, you can maybe, throw an adder of like 15% on a contract just to get him over here. So I'll do a little more research, man. I apologize I can't answer that question, but I will tell you, if I have done my research, I will definitely answer that question. But I promise you, as we go do a deeper dive into it, we'll definitely we'll break that thing down. Bebop, man, I appreciate you. I understand that it can be smart at times to get more draft capital for the number 1 pick, but I would be very happy with a quarterback on a rookie deal and be able to build this roster. I am 100% with you on that. Again, I think just for me, it's just getting the right guy, but there's five position groups that I look at that I look for in the first round, especially early in the first round. If you're picking top 10, there's 5 position groups. I've said this for a very long time. Yeah, I mean, I've said it for a long time on YouTube, but this has been my stance for a very, very, very long time, is if you can get certain position groups on a 5th-year contract, it's huge. Quarterback being one of them, right? Got to be the right guy. But if you can get, it's the position groups that demand the most salary cap. If you can, and if you can get them on a 5th-year contract, it's huge. So quarterback obviously be one of them, right? You hear about when the Chargers just absolutely built up their roster. What was that, 2 years ago before they had to dump money into Herbert? You look at what the 49ers did a couple years ago before they had to pay Brock Purdy. Quarterback is definitely one of them. Number 1 receiver, definitely one of them. Jamar Chase was the highest paid player in the NFL for a short period of time, but that's how much money they paid him. Quarterback, number 1 receiver, edge rusher, off left tackle, and number 1 corner. Those are the 5 positions. If we're picking top 10 or top 15-ish, those are the 5 positions that I target without question. So I understand why people want Fernando, right? Like, you definitely want a quarterback on that 5th-year option. I'm without question one of them that definitely wants it. That's why it is extremely hard for me to say trade back and skip out on a potential quarterback, because I want a quarterback just as much as you guys do. But I evaluate it just maybe a little bit differently than it sounds like most, but it's okay. That's all right. Randy, what's going on, man? Need Cignetti for a scout. I think, yeah, man. Yeah, Cignetti is a damn good college scout. That's for damn sure. What up, Rafa? What's going on, man? I appreciate you popping up in here, guys. Make sure you guys go to Rafa's channel. Go hit up Rafa. Definitely. He goes live. He's got his takes, man. He rocks out. Definitely go hit him up for sure. Appreciate you, man. You go, great takes. We need to get involved in more defense, not only quarterback, but we need something to build. We definitely need defense. We need to build this thing up. I'm 100% with you, and we'll see what kind of defense coordinator we bring in. If, cross our fingers, Clint Kubiak is the guy. Let's see. Darth Vader in the building. What's going on, man? Hire Kubiak. Hire Raheem Morris as DC. Raheem Morris would be a hell of a pick. I think that's what the downside is with waiting a little bit, is that he might take the job elsewhere before we even have a chance at, Kubiak, again, if he's the guy, to bring him in to potentially interview him and snag him. But I think he interviewed with the 49ers. We'll see how that works out. 5'10", Indiana ran textbook football. Every team, college or pro, wish they could execute like that. Solid defense, solid run game. RPOs accurate, high IQ, pocket passer. What more do you want? They were textbook. I 100% agree with you. All right, let's see. Dank, is anyone questioning if Genty doesn't have top five right ceiling? I think top 5 like running back ceiling. Again, I think the success of the running back has a lot to be is a lot predicated on the offensive line. Again, we broke down his game film in the offseason. I questioned his vision in open field, and we showed plenty of examples of that. I just hope, I think one of the issues that I had with Genty, and this was coming out of college, is that I think he was going to have trouble processing the speed of the NFL, and it looked like he did a little bit. Not to say he can't improve on it, not to say he can't grow on it, but I think it was a culture shock, which, again, that's one of the things that I stated prior to the draft and everybody being high on him, is that when you go from the Mountain West to the NFL, it's a culture shock for any quarterback. But when you go from the Mountain West to the NFL, and I've made this comparison multiple times, it's like a true freshman starting in the SEC. Like, if you're a high school running back and you're a true freshman and all of a sudden you're a starter in the SEC, the speed is night and day. And I think that's what Genty needs to kind of just adjust to. And everybody can say, he'll be fine. That's okay. You can say that. But the thing is, and I said this earlier in the stream, every rookie, no matter if you're the Heisman Trophy winner or the best prospect you ever seen in the world, there's always a massive learning curve coming to the NFL, because you're playing against grown men and you're playing against the best in the world, where in college you played against good players of your same caliber. And again, you only played probably 3 to 4 games at the top of college football. And so I think Genty just has to adjust to the speed of the game. And again, I'm not saying he can't, but I think it was a little bit of a culture shock, and we'll just see kind of how he develops. So it remains to be seen if I think he'll be a top 5 running back. I do have question marks if he can improve on that. All right, let's see. Okay. Man, I hope it's all working out. Super, you're saying Linderbaum, 17 to 25 mil. Man, that's a big gap. If it's between 17 and 25 mil, man, it looks like we're spending the 25 mil. 17, 18 mil. I don't know about cornerback Jamal Dean or guard David Edwards Bills. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. I think I'm down at the bottom. Damn, I think I'm caught up. Am I caught up? Jesus Christ, man. I appreciate everybody rocking. Let's see. Ernest. Okay, I'm moving up to 305 mil per year. This team. So the cap is going up. And here's the thing. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. I want to get into some topics. I don't want to be too much longer. I know, Jeff, shout out to you, man. I think you're going live here in just a minute. If you guys have other Raider fans, or no, sorry, if you have friends, family of other fans of other teams, shoot them Jeff's link tonight. I think he's going live at 7 o'clock. Shoot him Jeff's link, man. He does a show on Fridays for all fan bases. Definitely go check it out. Not just Raiders. What up, Jake? What's going on, man? Rick L in the building. What's going on? Okay. I just caught up. Appreciate you. Double tap the screen. If you want to get included in chat, hit that sub button. Appreciate y'all hitting you up on a Friday, man. Let's have a little bit of fun. I'm going to go, I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to talk about first. All right, guys, let me know your take on it. Do me a favor. Hit the hashtag Raiders. I'm going to share the screen right quick. Boom. All right. Let me know. Davis Webb, he's out. Let me know if you like Davis Webb. Let me know if you liked him. Let me know if you thought he would be a good prospect if everything went left and Clinton Kubiak wasn't around. I know Mike LaFleur's name is still out there. All right, and Mike LaFleur's kind of my 1B. If it's not Kubiak, I'd like to see Mike LaFleur come in here, be the head coach. But a lot of people were kind of intrigued of Davis Webb, but he completely took his name out. Let me know your thoughts on Davis Webb. My initial thoughts is I'm happy that he's not in the running because I think it's just too early. It's intriguing. He's got good history as it relates to maybe a player, but there's no way in hell that you can bring a guy in after just the history that we have of a revolving door of head coaches. We have a fan base that wants to win on this head coaching cycle. Like, you cannot miss. You can't miss. And, I think he is valued as maybe a good offensive mind, and that's fine. But when you've only coached, I think this is, guys, his third year coaching in the NFL. He had 7 years, I think, of playing experience. You're still trying to learn how to coach in the NFL. You don't even have a play calling experience. So then you're going to come over here and you're most likely going to want to be the play caller. And so you're now trying to figure out, how do I call plays in the NFL? And it's not just call plays, right? You can, and again, for some of you guys that don't know, I coached this game for 23 years in California and Texas. And you can draw up plays. You can understand a concept of a play. You can imagine what you want a play to look like. Coaching it, installing it, understanding how to relay it to the players is a whole nother aspect of the game. And he'd have to figure that out. He'd have to figure out how to be a head coach in the National Football League. He'd have to figure out, how do I relay to my coaching staff? That's the biggest knock I'd have on him. Is the greatest part about Clint Kubiak, the greatest part about Mike LaFleur, even some of the guys that I like a Robert Saleh on the defensive side. They got a Rolodex of contacts. They have history in the NFL that they could call on dozens upon dozens of coaches. And they have history to know how well do these coaches work. Davis Webb don't have that. Good luck establishing a coaching staff with Davis Webb this late in the game. I honestly don't even know what contacts he would have, given the fact that he's got very little coaching experience in the NFL. So, again, biggest knocks, he withdrew his name. I'll be honest, if we did bring him in and take him on, man, I think it would be just an absolute Raider move. And if we went 2-15, Raider Nation would have all the excuses in the world. They could point to his inexperience. They could point to his lack of knowledge of coaching and all that, and say, "Look, the told you shows would come out, and we'd call for his head." The thing about Kubiak, Mike LaFleur, all those coaches that have had experience, I think. Also, man, I'm going to throw this out here too. One of the biggest knocks I had on Antonio Pierce is the biggest thing that's going to be thrown out there with our next head coach. Again, let's say it's Kubiak. Everybody is going to say, trust the process. My biggest knock on Antonio Pierce was, what process is there to trust? He doesn't have experience in the NFL. He was coaching high school football 4 or 5 years prior to him entering the NFL. He doesn't have a lot of head coaching experience or just coaching experience in the NFL, period. And so people will start to say, trust the process, trust the process. Well, guess what? Davis Webb doesn't have a process. That was my biggest knock on Antonio Pierce. You can trust that Kubiak has enough experience to have a process. You can trust that Michael LaFleur has been around enough good organizations and coached under those organizations to know he has an idea of a process. And so that's my biggest knock on Davis Webb. He wouldn't have a process, unfortunately. So again, guys, let me know. Agree? Disagree? Let's see. Pigs. I want to mentor. Webb would have been a 7.5 out of 10. Sorry, let me kind of go back up. Let me see. Ernest, he's as good as Peyton says. So I think Peyton probably made a little bit of a chess move because he wants his offensive mind. And if Sean Payton values his offensive mind, that's great. But probably his offensive mind in the position that he wants him in, because you're going to elevate him to offensive coordinator. But guess what? He ain't playing. He's not calling the plays. And so there's no risk on Sean Payton elevating him and keeping him in the building because he knows he's not going to be calling plays. And so it's more of a chess move by Sean Payton. It's more of an absolute risk on our end because he would not be running the ship. And so, again, I think it was more of a chess move by Payton. But it's a good chess move because, again, you're not asking him to really do anything more than maybe what he's already been doing in that organization and in that coaching staff because he's not going to be calling the plays. So, Raquel, I don't want Davis Webb. He's too green. I think I saw you said it before. He's an NFL bro. That's a good way of putting it. Bebop, you're saying my concern with Webb is how does a coach go from QB coach to head coach? Yeah, it's a massive learning curve. Massive learning curve. Pigs, I want to mentor. All right, I said that I'd like to mentor too, but I think, again, lack of inexperience of coaching the NFL. I think you need a dialed-in front office to really be able to develop a young coach in this league, and I don't think we were ready for him. Not to say that he showed promise, not to say that he could basically be a head coach at some point, but the learning curve that he has entering that position and the learning curve that our front office has, because Spytek's a second-year head coach, I think we just weren't a good front office for him. The Ravens front office, that's who I thought he should have gone to. I thought it's a great landing spot for him. And that Ravens front office is so dialed in, they're going to help him through that learning curve, which I don't think we had the luxury to do. So, a good spot for him. John Fallon, I think that's BS. I think if we don't get Kubiak, Davis Webb would be the first call to see if he wants to change his mind. We'll see. We will see. Rick Al, Webb is a great dude to drink beer with and chase girls. You might be right. And then it being in Vegas would be rough. Would be a rough go. Bebop, yeah, I don't think the nation would have enough patience for Webb. Yeah, it's just too much to point to with his lack of experience. That you want to talk about civil war amongst the nation, that might trigger it. And I'm a firm believer, though, that the next head coach, no matter who it is, if it's Davis Webb, if it's anybody else, I am a firm believer that we have to give the next head coach a minimum of 3 years. Build the foundation. Even if Kubiak gets hired and he ends up going 2-15, 3 straight years, like, you got to give him the full 3 years. Because only for the fact that we need to change the reputation of our organization. That if we do our due diligence, if we put the effort into hiring somebody, we're going to give them the chance. Because if we continue to be this revolving door, no head coach is going to want to come here, knowing that we don't even give them a chance. So no matter what the outcome looks like for the next 3 years minimum, you have to keep them without question. And that's the stance I'm going to stand on. You can quote me now. Even if it's Davis Webb, I'm giving him 3 years. 3 years minimum. Dank, he probably working for free in Vegas. Let's see. Randy Pittman, Genty's culture shock was getting hit behind the offense line. He didn't get a lot of that in Boise. I agree, but we break down the game film and just kind of show certain things, but also he wasn't, even in opportunities that he had, he wasn't as fluid as you maybe saw him at Boise. And I do think that it's not necessarily a knock on him because he came from Boise. So him just having to learn the speed of the NFL, again, I hope people don't take that as a knock on him. It was my concern as to whether or not he'd be able to adapt, right? Vision is something you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. And when the speed catches up to you, it takes time for you to understand that. And so, again, don't take it as a knock because he came from Boise. That's just the transition that he's making. He's going from Boise to the NFL. It's going to be tough. I just hope that he's going to be able to kind of learn and adapt to the speed of the NFL. It's not a knock on him. That's just the natural progression of going from a Boise team into the NFL as a running back. I would have that knock on anybody coming from Boise or the Mountain West. Now, I'd take Genty out of it. I'd have that knock on anybody coming out of the Mountain West, but I'd also have the knock on anybody coming out of like the SEC because of the transition and the massive leap it is from college to the NFL. Dank saying he was a linebacker coach. He was a linebacker coach. He was, but coach for not very long though. Not to understand a process. If that's what you're saying or combating, not enough to have a process. Brand new Essential. What's going on, man? LaFleur has a cool French name. Darth Vader, agree. Webb is too green. Rick L. Payton was sending Webb to sabotage us. Maybe he got some intel, on us. You never know. Bringing in Pete was a huge mistake, and we're going to be bad next year. It was a big mistake, but again, I think I've said it before, and I think no one wanted to come here at the end of the day. We missed out on we had coaches that just didn't take our interviews. And I think nobody wanted Pete Carroll. So it was a match made in heaven, and we had to sacrifice. It was, God, we were the two ugly ones left at the club after the lights turn on. That's basically what it was. And so, we were just perfect for each other. And we sit here now. Dank, I'm fired. I'm tired of wasting years. I'm with you. That's why I'm hoping that this Clint Kubiak, it works out. And even if you're not a fan of Kubiak, I know my guy, Severe, he's not a big fan of Kubiak, and that's fine. I think just the experience that he has, we at least can, again, sit back and go, okay, let's just trust the process and hope that even he can prove the doubters wrong. We'll see. Scribe, what's going on, man? We're getting Navarro. Okay, we're about to get into that. We're about to get into that. Tien, you're saying yes, 3 to 5 years? I think so. We have to. Edgar, what's the status of Christian Wilkins? I don't know, man. I haven't heard nothing about him, to be dead honest with you. But even with just kind of I think he's suing. I think the Players Association is backing him, and so with that, I think I'm not sure if anybody's going to really take a swing at him at all until that kind of fizzles out. So, but I haven't heard much on him, to be honest with you. Chat, let me know if you guys have heard anything on Edgar. Edgar, my bad. On Christian Wilkins. Bebop, agree with you. We need to have patience, and I think Spytek and Brady will sell the exact same thing to Kubiak. I hope so. Rick, y'all. Kubiak, I think you said love Kubiak's running game. Yeah, shout out, just so you guys know, Charbonnet, the one that got hurt. I come from a little bit of a coaching family. Me, my brothers, my dad, we all coached. And my youngest brother coached Charbonnet in youth football. back in the day. So just shout out to my youngest brother. Yeah, we come from a big coaching background, not just players, but also coaches. You love Kubiak's running game. The Seahawks had the fourth most running plays from scrimmage this year. They pound the rock. That is old school Raider football. It is. And look, that's why I think if we went Mendoza, maybe it would make sense for Kubiak. Right? And at the end of the day, if Kubiak loves it, then man, let's rock with it. I'm game. If he thinks he can make it work and that's what we're going to lean on, okay. It's all about fitting the pieces of the puzzle together. So, but he does lean on that running game, and that's why I think that's why I'm a firm believer. As much as we have Genty, get somebody else in here that's going to be impactful behind Genty. And if you guys were here before, again, running backs get hurt a lot. Look at Charbonnet, right? Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey. Running backs do get hurt. But I also think if you could lean on the running game a little bit in today's game and have a good run game, but the reason why you can lean on the run game is because if you beef up this offensive line, like I like Rico Dowdle. If we went free agency, if we brought in Rico Dowdle, I'd be okay with it. Tyler Algier, I believe, is a free agent. Wouldn't mind bringing him in. Again, not to say that he's going to take over Genty's carries or it's a 50-50 backfield. I'm not saying that. We need somebody that's going to take at least maybe 8 to 10 carries away from Genty just to spell him. If you think Genty's going to carry the ball 30 times a game and he's going to last an entire career, you're out of your goddamn mind. Like, you need somebody that's going to come in and spell Genty 8 to maybe 10 times a game, but you don't want the running game to fall off, right? I think we all can agree Zamir White is not a type of running back we want behind Genty. So if you bring somebody in, but you beef up the offensive line, you kill two birds with one stone. It's been the way that I've tried to sell the offensive line in the first round in the last 2 years is you have one of the best offensive line. You kill two birds with one stone. You can plug in decent running backs that you can get in the later rounds or through free agency. You don't have to pay, a mass amount of your salary cap. You can plug in two running backs behind that offensive line and still find success, like these later round running backs. But you also protect your most prized possession, which is your quarterback. That's why you invest in the offensive line. That's why I'm not a big fan of dumping so much money into a running back in free agencies, because I'd rather take that money and put it into the offensive line, where, again, you can plug in running backs. They can find success. History tells us that. You see it across the league all the time. But you also protect your most prized possession, which is your quarterback. That's why I love building the offensive line and take that money and build the offensive line. Troy, Webb did not have enough coaching experience with you. Destroying the weights. What's going on, man? If no Kubiak, then bring back Gruden back. But he doesn't have the final say on the draft and roster. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in. A lot of people point to Gruden and just what he did with the draft and free agency and stuff, and I'm with you on that. I wasn't a fan of Gruden's play calling either, to be honest with you. There was a lot of times. I mean, if you go back and you watch just how many times even on crucial fourth down plays, third and shorts, the amount of fullback dives. I mean, I started calling it. I think it was by like week 4, his third year, his third year with us. Not week 4, sorry, is before his final year. His play calling became predictable. It really did. And the short yardage plays, man, the amount of fullback dives, the amount of times that he would actually take Josh Jacobs, and you'd have basically a fullback and Josh Jacobs, and there was one time where I knew it was a fullback dive, but at least Josh Jacobs there was an I formation. You had Josh Jacobs as the tailback. You had a fullback in front of him. I think it was Alec Ingold, shot to him. And it was a 4th and 1. You motion Josh Jacobs out of the backfield. Why do you motion your number one running threat out of the backfield, and then you still run a fullback dive, and we got stopped on a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1? That's when I kind of had it. I was just pissed. But the tough part about Gruden is a lot of the free agency moves that we did, you could tie them to Gruden. Gruden loved Antonio Brown. He was vocal about that before getting the head coaching job with us. He failed so much in free agency, and we failed so much in the draft. It's like we weren't going to, even with the progression of the record, right? People can say that he was doing better record-wise. That was going to fall flat very quickly because you we failed through the draft, and you can't continue to build through free agency. And when you miss in free agency, whether it's was that Joyner, the safety, Corey Littleton, like he just failed so much in so many aspects. And look, Mike Mayock was not calling all the shots. John Gruden was the head of the ship. John Gruden brought in Mike Mayock. And the biggest problem, and I've said this for a very long time, John Gruden has direct access to Mark Davis's ear. If something happens and he doesn't agree with JohnSpytek, John Gruden has an elevator to Mark Davis's office. And he's basically going to go complain, and next thing you know, Spytek's out the building. And I'm a firm believer that you need the proper chain of command as it relates to the front office, coaching, ownership, all that stuff. So, and I just don't think John Gruden provides that to us. James, what's going on, man? Looks like Patrick Graham is going to Pittsburgh. Yeah, shout out to him, man. Hopefully he finds some success over there as long as we don't play him. John, 805, we get Kubiak, and he brings in Walker. Is he a good fit with Genty? So I think Walker, I don't know, is Walker a free agent or trade? I don't know if he is, but you don't bring in Walker because Walker's a number one, in my opinion. Genty is going to be the number one. And so Walker will want to be a number one. So I just don't think it would be a good fit. You definitely bring in someone like a Rico Dowdle, but I do hear that Rico Dowdle wants to be a number one, so maybe that's not a good fit. But a Tyler Algier that might be okay with being a rotational piece. But I'd love to see us address the draft again. I look at that Indiana running back. I think his last name is Black. Go get that, man. That kid was a tough runner. He was a tough-ass runner, and I'm a big believer, we need a short yardage running back. That was one of my biggest knocks on Genty. He's 5'8", 215 pounds. He's not a short yardage running back, and he kind of showed it this year that he's not going to be able to get the short yardage situations for the most part. Again, could he improve on it with his vision or what have you, maybe, but he's 5'8", 215 pounds. I'm sorry, have we seen the size of defensive tackles? Have you seen the size of linebackers? I knew we needed a short yardage back. One guy that I wanted potentially was a Kyle Manung guy, an Ollie Gordon, to be more of a short yardage back to kind of have that versatility. And so I do think we need something like that, a short yardage back that can just pound that rock when it's 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1. Because again, I just have questions on whether or not Genty's going to be able to be that guy. So I don't think there's a world where Walker will come in, because then that means. Man, that's a true battle for Genty, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Raider Hawaii, man, the Raiders are going to have to use the majority of the cap money this year. They roll it over again. Yeah, I think you have to spend, 89% of your cap? And so, yeah, we got money to spend. We have money to spend, for sure. Scribe, don't put that out there, Scribe. I know we want I think a lot of us want Kubiak, but yeah, we maybe won't get him. No, we're not putting that out there, damn it. We're getting him. We're going to lock him up. Raider Wing, if we sign something like Willis, trade down and get picks for a quarterback in the 27 draft, we have to trade Max at this point. They have to have a plan and patience with the plan. Yeah, if we don't draft a quarterback and move back this year, I am on the trade maxxcrosby train because, look, even if we get Mendoza this year, it could take 3 years for Mendoza to find his peak. And if that happens, or it could happen in 4 years, Max is gone. Max is gone. So he's not going to be a piece of that. So get the draft capital, build around. Because if you get Mendoza number 1, that is your franchise guy. Max is no longer the face of this franchise. So you better do everything you possibly can to build around this guy. And the way you do it is you build through the draft. So I'm with you. I'm not a big... Willis is, I'm not a big fan. I don't know if I want to say a big fan. I struggle to think we need to bring in Willis from Green Bay. I struggle with that. I got to think about that more. All right. So let's go. Appreciate everybody rocking. Let's go to the next one. I think, what's the next one? All right. Let's talk about it. Ijaro Ivero. Guys, let me know. Look, let me know if you would want to bring, my bad, let me pull this comment down. Let me know if you guys would want to bring him in. Rick, how are you saying Allen from Penn State is also good. I think you're talking about Drew Aller. We'll talk about him in just a second. But guys, let me know. So Ejiro Evero, I think he's the backup plan. It sounds like he's the backup plan. Randy Pittman, Singleton, yeah, we could definitely look at him. It was a run-heavy offense over there at Penn State. What are your thoughts? He's the backup plan. If you go back and look at his history, he's got extensive history as a coach in the NFL. So you cannot knock his history. He's the DC that Carolina defense was doing some damn good things. You know, they snagged Travion Merrick. Man, I like Travion Merrick over there. Wish we could have potentially retained him, but I know they paid him. But he's got history. I like to go offensive minded. But my initial opinion on this, which is really tough, is, no one else wanted him. No one else was willing to kind of take a shot. And there was so many head coaching positions open this cycle. I think, including us, I think there was a total of 9 head coaching positions available out there, and no one really took a stab on him. Is there a reason why? I don't know. I'm not saying there is. I just don't know. But his history is really good. He's got ties to a lot of really good coaches. Again, I think he's got ties to the McVay tree. I think he was under Shanahan for a small stint, I believe. And so I will like his history. And I think what's difficult is if that's the backup plan, I think that it's almost, you kind of put all your, it tells me that you put all your eggs in one basket with Clint Kubiak, and this is kind of your fallback plan. And that's where I struggle with. And you can, again, it's all about trusting the process. He's got enough history where you can fall back and say, okay, let's trust the process. He's been coaching within enough regimes where he's seen multiple ways to do it. He's been with some very successful organizations. He was part of the Panthers that went to the playoffs. He's shown that he could be a good defensive coordinator with the opportunity that he had. And so I'm not going to hate it, but it also, in the same breath, I'm just sitting there going, man, like, it feels like we put all of our eggs in one basket, and this is kind of our fallback plan. And we are just in that business of we just can't be the fallback plan. So, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this one. Let's see. Rick Oliverio is a very bright dude. Yeah, I don't question that. I don't. And that's why I think we can consider, or at least say, let's trust the process. Let's trust the process if he ends up being the head coach. Raider Hawaii, I would consider McDermott over him if we don't get Kubiak. I'm with you on that. I probably would be okay with McDermott as well. The only thing that I'm not a big fan of, when you hire a head coach coming off of them being freshly fired, is the question is I would much rather have a head coach, a former head coach, a previous head coach that was fired, and you had some time, at least 2, maybe 3 seasons. That's why I like the Brian Flores, but obviously he extended with Minnesota. I think a coach needs at least 2, maybe 3 years to understand where did they fail. Right? McDermott needs to kind of take a step back and go, even if you thought you got screwed, right? You failed somewhere. Something happened. You misstepped somewhere. So the question is, where was it? And it'd be good if you went and took a coordinator job and you got to kind of reflect on it. You got to take time and go, okay, where did I fail, or what failed me, and how do I change it in the next stint? If you jump right into another job, like McDermott would if we were to call him and he got the job, the problem with that, and at least the issue that I see with that, is you didn't have enough time to reflect, and you might just get right into your same old habits. And that's just a concern that I would have. Again, not to say that they'd fail, but that's what I prefer to have in a coach that failed in one spot, and now you're giving him a second chance. I think everybody deserves a second chance, but hopefully you've learned from that first chance, because one, you're one of the select few in the world that gets an opportunity to be a head coach in the National Football League. There's very few that get a second chance. And so if you're going to get that second chance, man, you better learn from your mistakes and figure out how you're going to improve on it before you jump into that second chance. So, but if we miss out on Kubiak, we kind of made our bed, and this is kind of where then you got to lay in it, and maybe McDermott could be an option. All right, let's see. Rick L. Averio won games with guys off the practice squad in the secondary. That's good. I mean, I didn't know how much injuries they had over there, but man, J.C. Horn looked like a pretty good lockdown corner, kind of helping the development of that kid. So that was good. But man, if they had practice squad guys in that secondary, man, more credit to him. John, they said Averio came in with a solid plan for the quarterback and offense, but really want Kubiak. I did hear that. I heard that at least some reports that either I don't know if that's Spytek saying he came with a good plan, or if that's a reporter hearing that he may have had a good plan. So it's kind of hard to take that. But for just what it's worth, if he did, and it's good enough to come in, I believe, come in for a second interview. So he must have left a pretty good impression on Spytek and Tom Brady with that first interview to enough to get a second interview. So, we'll kind of see. Bebop, Avaro, I don't like it. I'd rather go with Flores or Shula. And I'm actually surprised Shula just didn't get more attention. One thing I will say is I think somebody said that Shula had just kind of a bad impression on some of his interviews. That's what I heard, or at least someone said it in the chat. Not sure how true it is, but, with Shula, I'm surprised. He's got good history as well. So we will see. Red Wing, if we don't get Kubiak and go with a defensive guy, we probably shouldn't take Mendoza, who's likely going to have to be coached up more than a first overall pick. Yeah, maybe. It's just it's his mindset, right? His mindset is maybe you pick him knowing that he's got the skill set to kind of just run a standard offense, and you think you're going to win through the defensive game. I don't know. We'll see. Avera's a super bright dude, but I want Kubiak. Rick L. McDermott was screwed by the Bills. Josh Allen stuck up the joint against Denver. Emmys, what's going on, man? What head coach candidate did the Raiders miss on if they missed out on Kubiak? There wasn't the great candidates in the cycle except Kubiak. You got Mike LaFleur still out there. If you kind of take what I just said before, with Mike McDaniels, I wish Mike McDaniels, I'm not a big fan of Mike McDaniels. I think I said that before he even got the job. I was surprised he got the Dolphins job initially. But I'm just not a fan of Mike McDaniels as a head coach, but I think he's a good offensive coordinator. But if you look, I think the two top guys in this head coaching cycle, if you go offense, is Clint Kubiak and Mike LaFleur. I think those are the two top guys, in my opinion. You got the guy that went from Cleveland. I'm blanking on his name, but you got the guy that went from Cleveland down to the Falcons. Again, another situation where he's got to learn from whatever mistakes he made. But I think what makes it really difficult with this head coaching cycle is you also had some pretty good candidates that left their team shockingly, right? You got John Harbaugh that left the Ravens. I wasn't a fan of John Harbaugh just because of his age. You never know how long he wants to coach for, and so he might be out. Then you had Mike Tomlin become available. Again, well-respected head coach. And so this head coaching cycle was wild. And again, like I said earlier in the live, what's really tough is leave it to us having the number one overall draft pick, a really good salary cap space, and we had probably the most head coaching vacancies in as long as I can remember. And all of them came out of nowhere. When the offseason hit and you started to see the head coaches get fired, I thought at most we'd have 5 head coaching vacancies, and it turned into, I think, damn near 10, doubled the number that I thought. And so, it's crazy. It's crazy. Scribe, that road to Vegas, book it. I hope not, man. Troy, man, he says, if no Clint Kubiak. Then what about DC? DC on Rams, but he's a guy to welcome, but his others coaches put there. When you say DC of the Rams, okay, DC. I think you said of the Rams. I think you're talking about Shula. Um, man, I think Shula's another guy. I think Shula and Everett are kind of the same. I think they'd be this kind of same guy. They both have very extensive history in the NFL. For some reason, Shula just really didn't get much pull around the league on this one. Randy, you're saying, do you think we resign Stokes? I think it would be a good move to resign Stokes because we have so many needs that if you rock with Stokes, if the next head coach still likes, or next DC still likes, Porter, and you kind of build on that, we have so many position needs to fill that I think you bring Eric Stokes back with a reasonable contract, and it's a position group that you can address, but it's not an absolute need, if that makes sense. Right, you could still probably draft a kid. Maybe if the corner is there at the third round, the value's there. Maybe pull the trigger, depending on what type of defensive scheme you want to run. But you don't want to force yourself into having to address it, knowing that, man, we got to address the offensive line, the quarterback position, maybe more depth in the secondary as it relates to the safety position. We have a gutted linebacker room. You need more depth or another start on the opposite side of maxxcrosby in the edge rushing room. We need depth in the D line. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think you do re-sign him if it fits the DC scheme, because I think he's serviceable. And that's one of the biggest things when I broke down the free agency list of the free agents that were on our list that are going into free agency, that were on our roster last year that are going to free agency this year. Who do we want to prioritize? Kind of went through that list. And I think Eric Stokes is one of them because he's serviceable. I think he can help us next year. Again, not going to blow the top off with talent, but I think he fills a need and we can address other position needs. Rick still got schooled by Kubiak. Not in that second game. Not in that second game. I think it was that the last playoff game. Pigs Avero would be 6 out of 10 for me. Don't really have a strong opinion on him. Panthers fans have mixed feelings, but they like the idea of getting a pick out of it. Yeah, because if he comes on over, then they get some sort of compensation for that. I'm with you. Rick the Mendoza train has left the station. He is the first pick of the draft. Bebop, we're going to have to really rely on our running game and our defense with a rookie quarterback. I agree. Depending on how that rookie quarterback obviously develops, but in the beginning, yes, 100% agree. John Fallon, I wonder if we consider Lombardi as OC so he can stick it to Denver twice a year. I don't know. That would be an interesting mood. Yeah, Truggo, yeah, I think that's what you're meaning. James, regardless of who we get for head coach, are we still going to roll with Geno Smith in some capacity? All right, I'm down at the bottom of the chat, so we'll talk about that here in just a second, right? If you get rid of Geno, you're still going to eat $18.5 million. You save $8 million in the salary cap, but you eat $18.5 million. There's a world where Geno Smith is still on this roster. It's all going to be dependent on who is the next head coach and who's the next offensive play caller. Like, I don't want him on this roster. But at the same time, even if you draft Mendoza, do you keep Geno so Mendoza can sit for a year and learn? Now, I don't think Geno Smith is the best quarterback to learn behind. Because not that I don't think Geno Smith has the brains for the NFL. Like, you can not do it on the field, but in the quarterback room, you could see it, right? There are quarterbacks that understand the game, but just can't execute on the field. Geno Smith could be one of them, right? I just don't think Geno Smith is willing to teach the next guy. I think Geno Smith is going to wants to be the next starting quarterback and probably the next starting quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years. I don't think Geno is willing to teach the next guy. I do think that Geno is probably just not a good locker room guy at this point, and so I think it's time to move on. But I think there's a world. There's a world where Geno Smith is still on this roster. And don't hate me for it. Don't hate me for saying it. Hate the regime that brought him in, because you need to eat 18 million in cap space, and we have a lot of needs. You can't just throw away 18 million. So guys, let me know what you think on that. Gage in the building, what's going on, man? If Kubiak is a guarantee for head coach at this point? Nothing is a guarantee till it's signed on the dotted line. But if I was I am a betting man. But I would bet money on it at this point. I would. I hope he is. The living legend, what's happening, man? Why Kubiak interviewing with the Cardinals if he's not already convinced he wants to be a Raider? Hire somebody who is. Somebody said in the chat earlier, there's a good chance that he just wants it. He might be using it as leverage. You know what I'm saying? He might be trying to get the best contract possible. Maybe markdavis has to empty his wallet to get him over here, and so maybe he's using it as leverage. But I will say, though, the one thing that I looked at is not only does the Cardinals have a really shaky quarterback situation, right? Like Kubiak's got to like what's his face over there. I'm blanking on his goddamn name. But you got to like the quarterback situation over there. You may or may not. But what I saw is Arizona doesn't have the greatest salary cap situation, and they have like 29 free agents they got to re-sign, and upwards of 30 free agents. Like, we have 25. They have 5 more. So not only do they have a much worse salary cap situation, they have more free agents going into free agency. They have more holes to fill than us. And so it just makes that job just a little bit less enticing, in my opinion. So I think Kubiak might be trying to use that as leverage to maybe get a better contract out of us. So I think that's I hope that's what's happening, and he ends up being our coach. Right away, no, you let O'Connell play next year as a bridge. Could do that. That could be an option as well. I think it just really depends on how much you are going to be able to manage that salary cap. What's that $18.5 million out the door? You know, that's one of the best things that we do have going for us is all the salary cap space. But that 18 million, man, that's out the door, unfortunately. And that's going to be tough. Now, the salary cap is going up, so we'll see how it works. Cobain, you don't think Geno will be back? And I know that there's also reports that Geno doesn't want to be here. So I've heard that where Geno is, and there's also the reports. I did a short on this when it dropped. Was apparently, I think SpyTech was trying to trade Geno before the season end. Like there was just rumblings that he was trying to trade Geno. The feelers were already out there, so I think it's kind of a mutual situation right now where SpyTech has already kind of shown his cards that he doesn't want Geno, and I think Geno's also probably he's showing his cards that he's like, hey, all right, I don't want to be here. So maybe he won't be, and we just eat that $18.5 million. I think a lot of the fan base will be okay with that. Rick Kubiak, our boss, James. I agree with you on Geno. Mendoza can always pick Brady's brain for quarterback experience. He could pick his brain, but look at the end of the day, I just don't know how much involvement Brady will be. Like he's a part owner. He's still going to be in that broadcasting booth. How long is he actually going to be around? Which kind of pisses me off. It actually really pisses me off that he has so much involvement in the process. Because as of right now, if he doesn't get Kubiak, everything he has touched failed. Everything has failed. So he's got he's got to move a lot of pieces to kind of gain the trust of the nation. At least some of us. I know there's still some believers out there. But picking his brain is one thing. Actually being on the practice field, actually being in that quarterback room and understanding the game plan and what is being executed is another thing. And how much he can be involved in that when he's in the broadcasting booth, well, that remains to be seen. All right, let's see. Okay. Let's go through just a couple more things, man. I've been on here for 2.5 hours. We're going to get off on here. We're going to get off here in just a second. I think the overall consensus, guys, real quick, let me know. Do you want Clint Kubiak or not? This is going to be a massive interview tomorrow. So let me know. Obviously, you guys know I'm big on Kubiak. That's my number one. Been my number one for a long time. I hope that at least for the sake of Raider Nation and being able to trust the process a little bit for the sake of again, like I just said, Tom Brady. For the sake of Tom Brady, finally being able to actually get a piece that he wants. I'm hoping that it happens. So, John, you're the first one in. Yep, Tien, yes, 95%. I think a lot of people are about it. So, I know I want to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl that's going on tomorrow, and I'm going to touch on that for just a second. I'm going to share the screen, guys. Let me know if you can see it. There's a website that I always like to refer to just as it relates to the prospects going into the draft. It's Draft Buzz. Shout out to them. But guys, are there any draft prospects you're looking for tomorrow? Red White, I like that you're being your own devil's advocate on Kubiak. Bebop, Kubiak is definitely the guy. He showed it in the big stage, the NFC, as Mendoza also did. Right. Yeah, let me know if you. So there are some names that have kind of popped out. I have to do more research on these guys. Don't get me wrong. But we're going to kind of go to some of the prospects. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Obviously, we all know Mendoza. Mendoza is the top name out there. But guys, let me know if there's another quarterback that you're looking at. Even if Mendoza is the guy, he's obviously not playing the Senior Bowl, so we're not going to see that. And look, only thing I'll say the only thing I'll say on Fernando Mendoza is it's going to be very interesting to see if he even entertains the combine, if he even entertains. Like, I think Indiana did a very good job of kind of playing their game, but also playing very safe when it came to Fernando Mendoza. Again, I go back to that play in the national championship on 3rd and 6 late in the game. He had the opportunity, seal it, win the national championship, and they ran the ball. They played a very safe offense for Fernando Mendoza. Question is, I'd be curious, what is he going to do in the combine? There's a movement now that players just don't attend the combine. What is he going to do in the pro day? He can help out his players and throw in the pro day, which would be very good for him to do. But a lot of times in the combine, you ask quarterbacks to do certain things that the scouts want to see. Is Indiana going to play it very safe with Fernando and just throw very, very simple route trees? So again, remains to be seen. Again, I don't want to talk too much about Fernando Mendoza. I think I killed that for this live. But is there anybody else you're looking at just to evaluate? Because at the end of the day, the evaluations have to continue because you don't know if we pick Fernando Mendoza. And so, yes, you can put your money on it, but you just don't know. And so for me, I always do as much research as I possibly can. Pepper, tell him what's going on, man. Saying yes, please. Kubiak is definitely the guy. Oh, yeah, all right. I read on that. Troy Gill, yes on Kubiak. Picks. Kubiak would be very nice coming down to the wire, though. It is. Kelly, by the way, what's going on, man? Nope. Are you saying no on Kubiak? Let me know. Let me know if you're saying no on Kubiak. Bebop, I think we would. I think he would. He seems like a team guy. I think he would. I don't know who you're talking about. Bebop. My bad. Let's see. Troy Gill, some old line that I'm looking that are looking good, and wide receivers from Notre Dame is looking good. I know a lot of people are kind of talking about that Notre Dame kid. One thing I'm starting to see, and I got to do more research on that Notre Dame kid, but one thing that I am seeing is, like, it feels like, man, you're basically, which he's a 4th rounder, so I'm not mad at it, but you're kind of replacing Deontay Thornton. I think that's kind of what your role would be. So Deontay Thornton be out the building, which, again, wouldn't be mad at it. I wasn't a big fan of Deontay Thornton when we drafted him. And so I think it served a purpose with Deontay Thornton, but I think he kind of serves the same role, so Deontay Thornton would be out the building. Pigs, I like quarterback Green, Pavia, Robinson, and Strand. Okay, we'll talk about the quarterbacks. Gage, Surratt. I don't even know if Surratt's at the Senior Bowl. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if he's at the Senior Bowl. Pigs Mendoza is the best quarterback. He is the best quarterback of this draft class. I don't think anybody can kind of argue that. Obviously, but I'd like to trade back trade back option more. The D tackle class is deep. I'm hearing that. I also think the edge rushing class is fairly deep. I think there's some good edge rushers in this class. Again, they're all kind of lumped in. Kind of once you kind of get past the top two, like in my opinion, I actually think Mesidor is going to be a better NFL edge rusher than Bain. That's just my opinion. I think he's going to be a better edge rusher than Bain. And we'll do a deeper dive on that later because we're going to do some film breakdown. Tien, how about that right tackle from Boston College and Arizona State? So I know that they were. I don't know about the Boston College kid. I know that they've been talking more about that Arizona State kid. So I'm gonna take a look at that. We're gonna get to the lineman here in just a second, but I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the practices, but let me know. Outside of Mendoza, right at the Senior Bowl, you got Garrett Nussmeier, Diego Pavia is over there. Trinidad Chambliss, he's still fighting, so he's not there. Drew Waller still recovering. There's one guy that I talked about as a project. Okay, guys, keep this in mind. Project. He might be a late day 3 guy in the 6th or 7th round. He's not even on the first list of this website, Buzz Draft. But a guy that I liked from last year as a project because Pat Bryant, that is now with Pat Bryant's with the Denver Broncos, I believe. Pat Bryant was one of my favorite receivers. T-Mac was my number one. I did like Pat Bryant quite a bit last year, and he played at Illinois. And because I was watching Pat Bryant, I started watching Luke Altmaier. Now, he doesn't blow you away stats wise. Luke Altmaier, I think, could be a decent project. Again, you're going to get him in the 7th round probably. He might even be an undrafted free agent because one thing to remember is there's not a lot of quarterback needy teams anymore. And so Luke Altmaier is a guy that I liked from last year that I was interested to see what he would do this year. He's got a ton of experience. If you're going to draft a project, he's got a ton of experience. Now, look, if we don't get Fernando Mendoza, yes, I would definitely take a flyer on Trinidad Chambliss. So I don't want to just skip him. But Luke Altmaier is a guy that I definitely will be keeping an eye on tomorrow in that Senior Bowl. Again, as a potential maybe 7th rounder or even an undrafted free agent. He's got a ton of experience. He also has experience playing under center, which is great. So the transition to the NFL isn't going to be as steep as other quarterbacks that are in just, primary shotgun type of offenses. So and he's been showing some good things. In the Senior Bowl practices. So definitely one guy that I'm going to be taking a look at. Diego Pavia, man. He's just not a guy that I'm going to be able to take a look at. I just don't. I really am. I'm okay with if we don't draft him at all. I know some people were good on him early, but if I want to take a project, for me at least, Luke Altmaier is probably the guy. Outside, again, Trinidad Chambliss if we don't go quarterback or we don't go Mendoza. So, guys, let me know if there's anybody else. Billy Mendoza. Let's go to the offensive line because, again, I know a lot of people are talking about the offensive line. Let's go. There's one guy that I am going to be watching. Pigs. Luke Altmaier's under your 6'2 benchmark. He is. But again, as a project, back at 7th round undrafted free agent, that's when I'm okay. As a first round draft pick and stuff like that, then yes, that's when then you got to hit all those kind of markers, right? But as a project, I'm okay. I'm okay with it because, again, his experience. One thing, depending on what side of the opinion you're on, you might hate it, but Luke Altmaier actually reminds me of Derek Carr. The throwing motion, the mobility pre 2016 Derek Carr, where he didn't break it, he didn't have his injury. He reminds me of Derek Carr, to be dead honest with you. I know people aren't a fan of Derek Carr, but as a project, I wouldn't be mad at it. Let's go to the offensive lineman, guys. Let me know who you're looking at. Let's take a look at the guards first because there's a guy that I'm going to be watching. Let me kind of go back. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find guards only. Let's go guards first, then we'll go tackles. Gage, I don't think Pavia is NFL ready. I don't think so either. He would definitely be a project, but if I don't like guys if I don't prefer guys, high in the draft under 6'2", then Pavia, you're not making the undrafted list. The guy from BYU, I think, is a very, very interesting prospect, but this is the guy right here. This guy is very interesting to me. I think it's Jennings Dunker. I think it's Jennings Dunker. I came across a little bit of a video on him, and I'm telling you right now, and I apologize. Maybe see if I could scroll this in just a little bit, blow this up. Jennings Dunker is a kid that I am going to be watching for damn sure. I started to watch a little bit more of him in college. He was not only was he I believe a right tackle, but he has a bunch of history of playing both guard and left guard and right guard. So he's got experience at it. So if you want to bump him down and possibly play guard, I got to do more research. But this is a kid that I'm sitting there going, okay, I want to take a little deeper look at this kid. And so I'm definitely going to be watching him at the Senior Bowl. Let me see. What up, East Coast? What's going on, brother? It's from Penn State. I don't know. Did I misspeak? My bad. I didn't mean Penn State. Pig's my favorite guard is Rutledge. Would pair great with JPJ. And the one thing I'm going to say about our offensive line, and this is what is throwing me off, to be in my evaluation of our own offensive line, is that we all know now the reports with Pete Carroll's son, Brendan Carroll, being just an absolutely horrible offensive line coach, which, again, you guys that rock with me, that was my biggest concern going into this year, was Brendan Carroll. Because I just didn't feel like Brendan Carroll was qualified enough to be the guy running the offensive line. And so now you hear the reports of just the dysfunction and the way that we switched everybody up. It was a mess, right? So the question is how good is our offensive line right now? If you put Jordan Meredith back at guard and not at a center position that he never played. He played, I think, one preseason game two off seasons ago at the center position, never played it again, and you move him from guard to center. The transition from tackle to guard, it's massive. Not everybody can do it. The tackle from right tackle to left, I mean, it's massive. The transition from tackle to guard, it's a big feat. It's not easy. Not everybody can do it. But I'm going to tell you right now, the transition from guard to center, any offensive line position to center, it's night and day. I mean, it's going to take you sometimes a full season, maybe even more, if you don't even have prior experience at it, to get adjusted. Everything is different. And so when they moved Jordan Meredith from guard to center, I thought it was the worst decision you could have made. Then you take JPJ. Obviously, he has experience at guard, but you take JPJ, you put him at guard, you shuffle everything around, and then DJ Glaze, that showed some promise at the tail end of the 2024 season, and then he completely regresses. When everybody regresses, I look at coaching. If it's just one player that just, looked like they took a step back, okay. But when everybody regresses on the offensive line, and now the reports come out of how dysfunctional it was, and we could have said that in the beginning when they were shuffling the offensive line, I'm trying to understand just how bad our offensive line truly is and where do we need to address it. Because if DJ Glaze continues to progress like he did at the tail end of 2024, then maybe we don't need to address the right tackle position. If you put Meredith back at guard, depending on the offensive scheme, in my opinion, my bad. Do I have the ad blocker up there? My bad. Hey, that's the website. I think Jordan Meredith is a very, very good guard as it relates to just him being very technical, but he's not a mauler. right? He's got to be put in the right system. So you got to definitely see what our offensive system is going to be and to know whether or not Jordan Meredith is going to be serviceable on this offensive line. But he's very technical. He's very technically sound. So this is why it's the hardest, in my opinion, it's the hardest position group for us to evaluate, because how much was it coaching and how much is the offensive line? So, but needless to say, I am going to be doing as much research as I possibly can on this offensive line. Again, 2 years ago, I wish we would have got Talisi Fuaga. Last year, I was a big Kelvin Banks guy. And even prior to that, I knew Will Campbell was probably going to go before us, but I would have been okay with Will Campbell. And I know a lot of people knocked him because of his combine, but I don't put much merit in the combine as it relates to just their performance. I look at other things when it comes to the combine. I look at the body of work. While you play the games, so let's see. Tien from Iowa. Yep. Pigs Dunker is interesting, but I suspect he goes pretty high. I have to do more research on where these guys are actually going to be planted, but it does look like he might be pretty high up there. East Coast Dunker, I have a ton of notes on from being down here this week. Awesome. Yeah, East Coast, I think you're down there, right? I think you go down there, man, guys. If you guys want some insight on definitely some college prospects, go hit up East Coast. He dials out, he works day and night when it comes to the college game. So definitely go check out East Coast without question. And East Coast, man, we got to dive a little bit deeper together. We linked up last off season. We got to do it again. Once I kind of do more research on the guys that I like. I think both of us were kind of on the same page with Shedeur. I know you were a big Bo Nix guy. I was a big Bo Nix guy as well. I got a bunch of notes on Fernando Mendoza. I'd be curious to know just kind of what your thoughts are. But once I kind of do more research on these guys, man, we should probably link up and definitely dive into it, because I think it was a good live that we had last time. Pigs, praying JPJs goes back to center. Yeah, we'll see how it works. I'll try that. Yeah, I'll try that ad blocker. We'll see. Yep, this is my 4th year. Awesome, man. That's cool. Hopefully, I think I remember something we talked about when we had our live. You asked me the question, what do you bring? What do you bring when you're going to scout, whether it's players, whether at a combine, or whether you scout them and you're doing your scouting of the game? And the number one thing you bring is a pad of paper and pen. And I think you were the one saying that, man, nobody does it anymore. Everybody is kind of going off of these analytics, and everybody's kind of going off of, I think it's an echo chamber a lot of times with some of these scouts, which is really frustrating for guys that really do a deep dive into the prospects and kind of understand what they're looking at. And yes, there's a massive difference between what you watching game film and understanding what you're watching and how to digest it properly, And so, unfortunately, I think it's an echo chamber for probably 95% of some of the scouts. And man, agree with me or disagree, because you're on the front lines when it comes to surrounding yourself with those scouts, man. Yeah, man, we'll definitely link up. Yeah, we'll link up for Mendoza for sure. So, real quick, I looked at the guards real quick. I'm going to do a deeper dive on some of the guards that I was paying attention to. Let's go to the tackles real quick. And then, I've been on here for almost 3 hours. Let me go to the tackles really quick. And again, it's just about, and then we'll look at the receivers. So let's go tackles only. You got the top guys, Francis Mangoa. I don't know. Spencer Fano, Caden Proctor. Guys, let me know if you're looking at any of these guys. I got to do a little more research on some of these tackles. When I'm kind of watching, the hard part about looking at some of the top tackles, and I got to do more research on some of the guys, the depth of some of these position groups. But just on the surface, what I'm struggling with is I just don't see, because we're picking number 1, right? If my plan is to trade back, I will definitely try to look at some of the offensive tackles. I said this earlier in the live. I just don't see a Joe Alt. Like, I just don't see just that top tier offensive tackle talent. I got to do more research, and I will. Just nobody extremely just pops out at me like a Joe Alt did. And so I just don't see that caliber of talent in this draft. And that's why I'm struggling with, do I trade back? That type of thing. One guy that I am going to be watching, because again, he's kind of caught my eye, and I'm really curious to see, because if we do pick Mendoza, then maybe we address the offensive tackle situation kind of later. And East Coast, I see you in here, man. Let me give me your feedback on this kid. But this guy, Monroe Freeling from Georgia, I want to do more research, but I went and I watched every single Georgia snap of like 2 games, and I just focused on him, both run and pass. And if we do stick with Mendoza, a guy that I'd be curious if he's going to be available, kind of maybe a day 2 guy, maybe a late a late second round. Again, I don't know if that's his value. I got to do more research. But Monroe Freeling is a guy that he's just caught my eye. And I'd be really curious to see whether or not I'm going to continue to like this kid as I do more research. But I'm going to be watching him for sure. And East Coast, let me know, because I believe he's at the Senior Bowl. I believe he is. Let me know if you got any feedback on that guy. East Coast, get familiar with Parker Braceford from Alabama. I've heard his name, haven't done research yet. He's an incredible center, undersized, but he plays above his measurables. God, did I think about that? Oh, no, okay. Yeah, I'll do more research on him. I was thinking about somebody else. Pigs, Freeling. Bori, I'm not going in an anchor. I'm not going to even try that last name. And World stands out as value tackles. Okay. Bori, I'll definitely take a look at that guy. East Coast Caden Proctor is like a 4th rounder. He hasn't been great. Francis Mangoni is probably the best tackle in this class. So I kind of agree. It does. Like I'm back and forth between Francis and Spencer Fano. I'm leaning Francis for sure. I got to do more research, but Francis just seems more of a stable tackle. Like, he's just harder to get around. It's like Joe Alt. Like Joe Alt had a presence about him that it almost looked like every edge rusher just had so much trouble just to even try to get around him. Obviously, he was massive. Joe Alt had a massive base that was hard to get around. Francis Mongoa just looks like probably the better one of all the tackles. But again, it's like it just doesn't look. He just doesn't look overpowering. Like he is a for sure, number 1 guy if you want to take him at number 1. I just don't think that he's that talent, which is tough in our spot. East Coast, haven't done my homework on Freely yet, but from watching a lot of Georgia this year, that O-line was underrated. I wish they ran the ball more this year. Okay. Okay, Freely isn't down there. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if I was seeing him or not. Not gonna lie, I'm like watching the practices while I'm working. Pigs would be cool to get more Georgia guys on the team. It's good culture over there, that's for sure. So definitely gonna be tapping in. One guy. We'll look at the receivers really quick. Again, I apologize. I'm bouncing around a little bit, but I'm gonna kind of end it off with the receivers. East Coast, let me know kind of what your thoughts are. I do think my top 2 receivers, I think Carnell Tate is good there at the number 1. Jordan Tyson is a guy that I really, 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 really like. I believe he had some drop issues a little bit. Again, I'm going to do more research on it, but the one thing that I hate about Jordan Tyson is you just can't overlook the injury history, and that's what I'm struggling with. I really like Jordan Tyson, but I think Carnell Tate is probably the more complete receiver a little bit right now. But again, like I said before in the earlier part of this live, I just don't see a Teteroa McMillan. I don't see. I think Carnell Tate's probably the closest thing to just a really good receiver that you possibly can have confidence picking him in the top 5 if you need a receiver. So outside of that, I'm definitely gonna be watching more. I know a lot of people like Mekhi Lemon out of USC. The Notre Dame guys getting some. Malachi Fields, he's getting some some TV time. Jacoby Lane's also getting some TV time as well. One guy that just for us, all right, maybe not other teams, a guy that I'm really interested in, you kind of got to go back. And again, looks like he's probably going to be like maybe a day 3 guy. Let me go through. Hold on. Let me find him. You got to move around to kind of find this kid, I think. Bear with me, guys. He's showing out in the Senior Bowl. I went back and in the Senior Bowl practice. Hold up. Let me find him. There you go. Before I mention it, let's see. John Fallon. You're saying Cooper from Indiana. I like Cooper. I do like Cooper. I'm with you on that. And if we do get Mendoza, yes, it would definitely help. But I do like Cooper. East Coast Carl Tatum, my number 1 so far. Then Mekhi Lemon. Jordan Tyson is good. His injury in his hand sometimes. That's what I've been hearing, that he's got some drop issues at times. But, man, like I believe just his route running is pretty damn good. It's pretty elite. But, yeah, you cannot overlook the injuries, which is tough. I hear a lot of people talking about Mekhi Lemon. I wish Chris Bell was healthy because he could be the number 1 in this class. All right. But I think Omar Cooper is a good sneak in the first round. All right, I'm a huge fan of his. Pigs, Skylar Bell, Deion Burks, Josh Cameron stands out for me. All right, I'm gonna take a look at him. Jacoby Lane has been terrible. Yeah, I've watched him a couple times. And again, I got to watch more of USC, but he just doesn't seem like a natural catcher of the ball for some reason. Again, I could be wrong. I got to watch more of him. But I'm definitely going to be watching him in that Senior Bowl. This kid right here, and again, it's for us. Trey Tucker is not going to be is most likely it's going to be his last year with us. So we need somebody that's going to be kind of more of a shiftier receiver. A guy that you can kind of get in the later rounds, possibly. Kevin Coleman Jr. I saw him flash a little bit in the practice, and then I went back and kind of watched his film a little bit, and I'm sitting there going, this kid might be a decent kid to take a flyer on in the draft. Again, got to look at where his value is. I think based on kind of what I'm seeing, he could be maybe in like a 4th round, 5th round kid, East Coast. Again, I know you're dialed in more. Let me know where you think his projection might be. But Kevin Coleman, if we need a slot receiver, someone that's more of like a gadget guy, this could be the Trey Tucker replacement. Definitely a guy that, for me, I want to pay him a little more attention to, do a little more deeper dive on. East Coast Kevin Coleman is great everywhere he's been, underrated. Yeah, just watching the practices, it kind of just caught my eye out of some of the receivers. And for me, I was like, man, I'm gonna start paying more attention to this kid. Again, because Trey Tucker most likely will not be with us after next season, we need someone that's going to play kind of in that slot. You can move him around and just kind of stretch the field for us a little bit. So, all right. I wasn't going to go do a deep dive on everybody. There's definitely linebackers and stuff, but definitely tap in this Sunday with me. I'm going to go back up to the big screen. I'm going to be in the Raider War Room with Severe, as well as Chris, Special Podcast. Tap it with us, man. I've been on here for about 3 hours. I just wanted to rock it with you guys on a Friday. Appreciate everybody that came through. Have over 200 in the building right now, man. I can't appreciate you guys enough. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate the members. I appreciate all the subscribers, man. Definitely, guys, go hit up East Coast as well, man. If you guys want to tap into more details as it relates to the draft, I'm going to tap into it. But again, it's more targeted as it relates to who I want to take on and who I want us to draft. And so definitely appreciate it. Pigs. Yeah, I agree. Tucker needs a fresh start. Would be good for him. Troy Gill, how about the D tackle for Florida? He's had injuries. So you're talking about Caleb, the D tackle for Florida. I'm a big Florida fan. Watching him, the part that I struggle with him is he plays upright way too often. And that's my biggest struggle with him. At times he looks dominating. He's very athletic for his size. But to me, I feel like he just gets upright way too goddamn quick at times, and I think it's going to hurt him a little bit in the National Football League. And I think people might draft him just a little too high, and that's going to be tough for me. He's most likely to go in the first round, and I just don't know if I'd take him in the first round. Obviously, we're not going to be targeting a D tackle in the first round, so for me, I just wouldn't want to take a flyer on him. I feel like he plays way too high at times, and he's too comfortable at it. Sometimes when you have D tackles that are that tall, and kind of can just play with strength, sometimes their leverage gets too high quick, and they're looking and they just get too used to be able to just kind of throw guys off. But he's athletic, so it helps him. He throws guys off, and then he can get to the ball. And when you get too far into that habit and you don't understand how to play with better pad level in the NFL, I think you can find yourself getting in trouble. And so that's kind of my biggest knock on him. But again, I think they're going to kind of overdraft him in the first round, and that's going to be tough. Raider Mitch, appreciate you, man. Denzel Boston is a beast, second best receiver in the draft. All right, man, I'll take a look at him. I'll put him on the list and take a look at him, and maybe we'll try to break his game film down, maybe. But I appreciate the super chat, brother. TN36 Lee Hunter. All right, let's see. We'll take a look. We'll do it. We'll definitely pay attention to that guy. East Coast. He's fixed that this week. He's had great pad level. Okay, all right. Daryl Jackson, Caleb Banks, and Lee Hunter are legit. So I'm going to watch more of the practices and definitely watch him. But definitely watching him at Florida, that's what I struggled with watching him. If he can't get out of that habit, then we'll definitely see just kind of how he translates to the NFL. But if he's fixing it or at least improving on it in the Senior Bowl, at least in the practices, man, it's going to be good to hear. Because if he can fix that pad level, man, he's a beast. He's strong as shit, and he's athletic. He's athletic for a big man, so he could be scary for sure. Again, we'll be looking at edge rushers. I know a lot of the edge rushers that I'm going to be paying attention to. They're not necessarily playing at the Senior Bowl. I know a lot of people are want to see Ruben Bain kind of get some work in there. Not going to be seeing it, but I'm kind of a firm believer, at least on my side, that the guy that I actually like more, if you're going to pick somebody from Miami, I think Akeem Mesidor is going to end up being a more polished, at least more well-rounded edge rusher in the NFL than Ruben Bain. I think Ruben Bain's strong as shit. I think he's going to struggle to move. People are going to struggle to move him. But as a pure pass rusher, or at least being able to kind of sustain the edge, I think offensive tackles are kind of eating him up, unfortunately. He's got good straight line speed, but man, when you got to move on him, especially at the top of his pass rush, I think, in my opinion, I think quarterbacks are just going to move slightly in the pocket on him, and he's going to miss, even if he gets to the quarterback. And so, if I were to pick one of the two, I think Akeem Mesidor, in my opinion, is going to be a more polished edge rusher in the National Football League. I think he's more athletic. He's got more versatility in his pass rush and just his ability to get to the quarterback and kind of get sideline to sideline. So, Akeem Mesidor, I'm very interested to see kind of where he ends up, because I would not mind. I think a lot of people are projecting him going in the first round as well. And so I think for me, you end up missing on him, but he's definitely a kid that I preferred more when watching those Miami games. Pictures, I really like the defensive value at the top of the draft. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. Last one, East Coast. Kevin's a friend of mine. I got to see him, and he's a large human being. Yes, he is. So fast for his size. He's a goofy guy, too. Teams are going to love him. Hopefully not too goofy. Hopefully not Christian Wilkins goofy, because we all know how that worked out. But I'm not throwing that out at him. I'm not doing that. But, yeah, that'd be cool. That's cool that your buddy's with him. East Coast, Ruben Bain should play 3-tech or 4-eye. He'd be the next in Geno Atkins. I even struggle seeing him playing on the interior, because I think he can. I think he could be I think he could be decent in run support off of the edge. I still struggle to think how he's going to react to zone coming his way, but you move him inside. I actually think I struggle to think that he's actually going to be really effective as a first round draft pick, like an early first round draft pick. And that's kind of when I think about Bain, I think about that value. If you move him inside, man, I think he's going to get eaten up inside and not really become the value of like a top 5 pick if that's where he goes. Even if you move him inside, in my opinion, I feel like he's going to get eaten up on the inside, and I think he's going to get eaten up by tackles if he plays off of the edge. But again, that's just my opinion. And I've watched probably 6 games on him so far. I should watch more just to get a better feel for really who he is, but that's just my first take on him. East Coast, I agree. Hakeem is a better pass rusher. Yeah, man. I think that kid could be a pretty deadly pass rusher, to be honest with you. What up, Balcat, man? I'm just about to get out of here. John, what's going on? Appreciate you throwing a super chat. Hope we can get Price in later rounds to help out Genty. I definitely think, without question, we need to get another running back. Again, if at anything, to give Genty some breathers. I wasn't a big fan of drafting Genty, but look, he's here. I want us to get either somebody in free agency that's going to kind of spell him, kind of give him a little bit of competition. But at the end of the day, running backs get hurt quite a bit. So we need somebody that's going to kind of fill in and we don't fall off too much. And so I want to address in the draft. And if we don't in free agency. So definitely, I want to see us get somebody in here that's going to be a decent number 2 running back behind Genty and be able to kind of have that. Because I'm a big running back by rotation guy. Like I want that 1-2 punch. I really do, because I am a firm believer. Running backs get hurt. And plus, I hate to burst some of the bubble of people that like Genty, but if we do draft Mendoza, or if you move on, if you trade back and you don't get Mendoza and you get a quarterback next year, maybe we'll just use the scenario that we are going to draft Mendoza. Guess what? You're not going to sign Genty to a second contract. Because the moment you have to think about Genty's 5th-year option or extending Genty, you got Mendoza. And if Mendoza's as good as people think he's going to be, if he plays like that, you got Mendoza's contract to think about right behind that. And I'm going to invest more in the offensive line than I am into a running back. And so that's where it's tough for me. That's why I don't like picking running backs. One of the reasons why I don't like picking running backs early in first rounds. And so I want to bring somebody in that is going to be a 1-2 punch. Again, spell Genty for 8 to 10 carries. But I also think we need a short yardage back. I was a firm believer that I don't think Genty can be that short yardage back. He struggled at it this year. So let's bring in somebody that can be that short yardage back, or at least help him if he continues to kind of struggle in that area. So, but yeah, John, appreciate it, man. Appreciate you with the super chat. Raider Mitch trade the pick to the Jets. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to trading back. I'm throwing that out there. Cassius Hall is a beast at DN. East Coast, there's a lot of edge rushers and guys overrated in this class. Yeah, I actually think this edge rushing class, I said it earlier in the live, that I think it's a pretty deep class. It's not that there's anybody that's crazy dominating, but I think that there's enough guys that you can kind of put together that could be good in National Football League. And so, but it's tough, man. It's like, I do think, and East Coast, you do more your homework. I think what's really tough is I think this is probably one of the worst draft classes as a whole that we've seen in quite a while. I see the top guys in the draft classes, and I just don't see a lot of guys that can compare to some of the top guys in previous draft classes. So I think this is just kind of a struggling draft class. I think there is depth, but nobody at the top of the position group that you can compare to some of the top guys that came out in previous years. That's why I'm kind of struggling with this draft class. But there's always diamonds. There's always guys that will pop out. And if you can understand it and if you can evaluate it correctly, you will find guys that will, without question, help you at the next level. Brandon Mitch, grab Tucker. Sean Tucker from Tampa Bay as a backup to Genty. Hey, Sean Tucker, he definitely had his flashes over at Tampa, especially when that entire running back room was banged up. And so you want to take a flyer on him? You can't take a flyer. I think he's a smaller running back, but I think he actually serviced pretty well as a goal line carry back, because I think even when the running backs came in and they continued to play, Sean Tucker was still the goal line back at times. And so maybe he could be a decent short yards back. I got to do a little more research on him, but it is a good name to kind of throw out there. Um, and so, but a guy that Rico Dowdle, I think Rico Dowdle wants to go somewhere to be a good starter, but Rico Dowdle was a guy that I wanted to bring in last offseason because I didn't want to get a running back in the first round. So Rico Dowdle was out there. I think Tyler Algier is a free agent this year. And if he's a free agent, I'd say, hey, take a swing on him. I think the Falcons would be crazy to kind of let him walk, given the fact that I think him and Bijan are a great 1-2 punch. I think that's a nasty tandem. But Tyler Algier is another guy that I wouldn't mind bringing in to kind of spell Genty for 8 to 10 carries. So there's definitely a couple guys in free agency, but I definitely want to look at guys in the draft as well. Would Panthers DC take a lateral move? I don't think so. I don't see him doing that, to be honest with you. Because if he's already in head coaching conversations, I think there's a really good chance that he's going to stick with Carolina and maybe get in the next head coaching cycle, possibly. Because he's got guys there. He can continue to install that system that he has, build on that system. And again, if he's already pulling interest in this head coaching cycle, stick with your guys, show that you can be dominating again, and just really instill that system and get in that next head coaching cycle. Don't you go to somebody else, you got to basically bring your guys back in and build it. And I think that hurts you more than it helps you, in my opinion. Yeah, Keldrick Falk, because how Alvaro Reese are all overhyped. Sony Styles, to me, it was a little overhyped. So I got to do more research on the other guys. But Keldrick Falk, if you just watch him on the surface, he looks damn good. But then you dive deeper into the film and you sit there and go, damn, like there are some major flaws in that kid's game that I'm struggling to see if he can, like, when you watch his initial film, he almost looked like a Vontez Sweat almost a little bit. But then you start to dive a little bit deeper into his game film and you start to see the flaws that, okay, there's a good chance someone might overdraft him a little bit. Now, in a scheme, like if you see him more in like because of his size and more of like a 3-4 scheme and you want to use him kind of more strategically that way, then maybe it could work out. Maybe there's a DC that can kind of really utilize him, but as like a 4-3 edge rusher, the more and more I kind of watched him, I'm struggling. I think someone is going to kind of overdraft him a little bit. I got to do more research on Cassius Howell and Arvell Reese. I know a lot of people like Arvell Reese. So Pigs, Caleb Down, Sony Styles, best linebacker safety in a long time. And the two linebackers who are the two linebackers I really like? I like that Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. I really do. I like that Jacob Rodriguez. There was another linebacker. I got all my notes. Just guys that I'm kind of just putting down. God, there's another linebacker that I really like. But yeah, I like that Jacob Rodriguez kid out of Texas Tech. I definitely think that kid could be a baller at the next level. East Coast, the meat of this class will be to the third and fifth rounds. That's what the good players are. Man, I got to do more research, but honestly, based on what I'm seeing of the top guys, I would not be surprised with you saying that. Pigs just an odd draft class, yeah, and we got the number one. Lucky us. Sean Tucker has a heart condition as well. He may not play full-time snaps because of that. Okay, I didn't know that, man. Appreciate the info on that. Brandon Mitch, Arvell Reese is the pick. Best all-around player in the draft. I know a lot of people like Caleb Downs as the best, like, all-around player. I got to watch more on him. When I watch college football, I watch my Florida Gators. That's about it. So now's my time to really start doing a deeper dive on these guys. So it's going to take me a while to really get my opinions on it. But a lot of people like Arvell Reese, but I think a lot of people are saying Caleb Downs is like the overall best prospect in this draft, but remains to be seen. East Coast, I'm doing a draft guide on Arvell Reese and have done 3 breakdowns on my website with the All-22. He's a speed rusher with little to no pass coverage ability, and he's not physical. All right, man. There you have it. Well, I'm going to pay more attention to him as well, man. And yeah, East Coast, when we link up, man, we'll definitely talk about it. Because one guy that people kind of hated me on last year was my Mason Graham take, and I'll be honest. I think Mason Graham towards the tail end of the season really started to started to kind of take off a little bit and really kind of get into his own. But I think the beginning of the season, the first half of the season, I think he was showing a lot of what I saw out of his game film. And look, it's going to take 3 years, right? It's going to take at least 2 to 3 years to figure out exactly who a prospect is. But again, it's all basing the value off of that number 6 overall pick that we had. So Mason Graham could still turn into the monster that everybody thought he was going to be. But I'll be dead honest, based on kind of what I saw in the beginning, and I thought he went to a perfect spot. Mason Graham, you got Myles Garrett over there that's going to attract the double teams and the triple teams. If a running back or tight end is going to chip anybody, you're going to chip Myles Garrett over there, and with a decent defensive front. I thought Garrett was going to, or not Myles Garrett, I thought Mason Graham was going to get his fair share of one-on-ones. And so I thought he was put into a very, very good situation. I think in the very beginning of the first half of the season, I think he struggled, and he showed a lot of what I saw. But I do think I got to go. I want to watch more film on him, because one thing I do is, depending on what my assessment is on players, whether it's a good or bad assessment, I go back and I just look and see, was I right or was I wrong? And if I was wrong, why was I? And so it looked like Mason Graham turned it on kind of towards the tail end of the season a little bit, or at least the last, I want to say like 6 games or so. And so maybe he will turn into the monster everybody thought. But I think at the very beginning, at least the first half, it was a struggle with him getting acclimated. So we'll definitely see just kind of how it plays out. But I definitely do my homework on the players that I had assessments on. Pigs, Sony Styles overhyped. How 5-star athlete and with a safety background, doesn't miss tackles and replays exceptionally. Pigs definitely tap in with East Coast. I think he'll break it down a little bit for you, at least his opinion, right? John Rodriguez, remember 805 Price run it back to the house as a punt returner, kick returner, not just a running back. Price, I don't know. I don't know who. Are you talking about Tucker? Because I don't remember who we're talking about with price wise. Let me know. Let me know if you're talking about a Tucker. He said Price run it back to the house as a punt returner, kick returner, not just a running back. Let me know. But I appreciate the super chat, man. I'll look and see if you are meaning Price. If it's Price, honestly, I'm not sure who you're talking about. It doesn't ring a bell for me. Okay, East Coast, you're responding. Let's see, Alec, David Bailey, hell of a linebacker as well. So I've watched a little bit of David Bailey. Again, I got to get off of here, man. I apologize, but I'm gonna try to respond just a little bit more. David Bailey looks like a very good athlete off of the edge, but he seems like he's a little undersized to me. Again, I got to do more research. I feel like, I could be wrong. I want to look at more game film on him. I feel like Bailey is going to struggle maybe in the run support side of things. He does look like a good an athletic pass rusher. But I feel like he relied more on just his pure athleticism, whereas an edge rusher, you're going to have multiple moves, in a sense that, like, there's going to be times you're going to get hung up. So can you kind of sustain the line of scrimmage, right? And can you set that edge in the NFL? And I think that's kind of where I struggle with him as a pure pass rusher and trying to beat guys around the edge. I think he might be able to do that. But as an all-around edge rusher, I know a lot of people are high on him, so I think that he's going to pick probably in the first round, I would assume. I could be wrong, but I could see him kind of get bullied a little bit when you in the run game, trying to set that edge and have versatility in your pass rush as it relates to you being able to kind of have a little bit of a bull rush in there. I don't see that in him. I got to do more research, but that's just my initial take on him. But I'll do a little more deeper dive on him. East Coast Caleb Downs, legit. The consensus is correct there. Okay, that's what I hear. I got to do more research, but that's definitely what I hear. Pigs. I didn't see that, but perhaps it was just the way the game shook out. I thought he would look great in big games. David Bailey is the best edge in this class. To me, it's not close. Okay, so East Coast. I'm gonna do a little more research on David Bailey. I've only watched, I want to say 3 games of him, and I typically like to watch at least 8 games, at least 7, more like 8, and I like to watch some, at least 2 games in the beginning, just to kind of get a gauge as to who they are in the beginning of the year, and then how they progressed, how they changed towards the tail end. But I also like to watch a couple games of their previous year, just to kind of again gauge to see the progress. So I'll definitely do a deeper dive on Bailey. You said right down Romello Heights. He will be great in the NFL and might get overlooked. All right, man. I'll definitely write that one down. So Jadarian Price, Notre Dame, got it. Okay, perfect. I'll definitely look at him. I know that that Notre Dame just I'm blanking on the kid's name, but the running back over there, Love. Man, a lot of people like him. I know there's a lot of Raider fans that are content creators, and they are Notre Dame fans, and they love that Love kid. So it'll be interesting to see just kind of where he goes. So East Coast, your boy Tyreek Snap has looked good this week, and he's up and down at Florida. Oh yeah. Played a little more edge rusher, I think, and I know I saw him have a rep just recently, and so he looks decent. He looks decent. I want to see a little more athleticism out of him, to be honest with you. But I think he's having a decent little showing over there, which is good. I'm glad to see it without question. Pigs. Malachi Lawrence is my value DN in this class, along with Sapp. Yeah, I'm gonna start doing more research, guys. I promise you. And usually probably around kind of late, like mid-March. I want to say mid-March to late March is when I can really get dialed in with all of it. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. And East Coast, man, I'm gonna hit you up for sure, man. We're gonna link up. We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna make sure we kind of break these down for the people. It's gonna be fun, man. So appreciate everybody. Again, appreciate the members, the super chats. I appreciate all the subscribers, man. Can't thank you guys enough. Appreciate you rocking out with me. Remember, I go live on Sunday nights as well as Wednesday nights. We're going to break down game film throughout the season, or throughout the off season, college prospects, as well as the free agents. But we're going to start doing that after we lock up who our head coach is, right? Because once we lock up the head coach, then we'll kind of get into a gauge as to what the scheme might be. We got to look at who their assistant coaches that are bringing in. We just got to know just kind of what talent they might be looking for, and then we'll start breaking down some of the free agents, but we're definitely going to break down some of the college prospects as well. So appreciate y'all, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen on your way out, hit that sub button before you're on the way out. Tap it with me this Sunday. I definitely appreciate it. So, hey, have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy the Senior Bowl tomorrow. East Coast, good luck with the rest of the Senior Bowl. Hope you enjoy that weekend, man. I'm going to get out of here. So appreciate y'all. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.